The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. This is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive. But we break on command 'cause women rule the world. Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, January 27th, Monday, January 28th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a rockin' weekend and an awesome day and an even better evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from beautiful Bayfield, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, 99.1 FM, WQEE, home of The Walking Dead, 107.7 FM, UPRN in Louisiana, Revolution Radio, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight, I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight, we are joined by the lovely and talented psychic Elizabeth April. And it is Psychic Sunday, and we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to touch on a plethora of topics, but we won't be doing readings tonight, just to let you guys know. But do feel free in the third hour to call in with any questions or comments you may have, and make sure you go into the chat rooms and leave your questions there as well. But Elizabeth April is a cosmic intuitive channeler who has the ability to go into other realms and dimensions in order to gain access to information through vibration and visuals. By having the ability to explore past lives, Elizabeth works with individuals who want to comprehend their past, present, and future. Whether you are sitting in her audience, watching her YouTube channel, or getting an individual reading, the insights channeled through her will leave you feeling in tune with the limitless possibilities existing within your reality. Elizabeth, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm definitely excited to be here. I love Spaced Out Radio.
Me too. And I actually found it by accident. I was sharing my page and I found Spaced Out Radio and I was like, wow, Spaced Out, I can relate, So I decided to check it out, and then Trip and Kat were like, you're going to be hooked. And I was like, nah, I don't really listen to this kind of stuff. But all the topics that they hit on night after night, I was hooked from day one. And I really love the crew here and all the listeners and just having that common ground with them as far as paranormal experiences and, feeling somewhat different from normal people, if there is such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely resonate with the weird crowd. I'm definitely a bit of an oddball myself, so it's really nice to kind of find your tribe and your community out there in the world, So it's really been awesome to basically take my crazy thoughts or my crazy brain and put it out there and just kind of see how it's been landing, and a lot of people are starting to wake up. So we're in a really exciting time right now, right here.
So I was wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what put you onto this path of enlightenment and awakening?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of you may know me out there, and some of you may have no idea who I am, which is really cool. And so I'll give you a little bit of like an overview of kind of my process of how I ended up getting to where I am right now. And even though I'm only 26 at this time, I've definitely felt like I've been awakening my entire life in this lifetime. And so when I was younger, I was clairvoyant, which basically means that I had the ability to see ghosts and spirits and energies and chakras and auras and all of that great stuff. And so, so I was like really open, really aware. I remember telling my friends in like grade 4 about levitation. I told them that I could help them levitate, even though I couldn't levitate myself. So I was definitely the oddball out, and telling my friends that I could see angels and spirits and talk to their grandfather if I went over to their house. So, I was that kid basically. But unfortunately, being that kid, you also feel very alone and very outcasted. And around the age of 10 years old, I really just didn't want to see what I was seeing. I started to realize that I wasn't really fitting in, and I wasn't really like a lot of the other kids in my class. So around the age of 10, I just decided to shut down my spiritual abilities. I just wanted to conform, I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be normal. So, very logically, very analytically, I'm like, what do kids like from other kids? Like, what makes someone like someone else? And at that time it was, if you're good at sports. So I decided to get myself into sports, which was so interesting, going from a very, very metaphysical reality into a very, very physical reality. And so I started to really ground myself, and I pretty much went into a little bit of everything, from kickboxing to karate to volleyball to soccer to rugby, you name it, I went into it. And I did quite well actually at everything that I tried, which was pretty cool, but I also got bored quite often. And then at around the age of 15, 16 years old, I was really, I pretty much had everything that a 16-year-old would want. I had a really good family, really good friends. I was accepted, if not popular. I was the captain of every sports team I was a part of, and I thought that I had everything that I needed, everything that I wanted. But I was still so depressed. I was really battling with anxiety and depression and restlessness and not being able to go out and feeling everyone's energy, even though I didn't know what I was feeling. And so, I remember going up to my friends in high school and saying, have you ever questioned things? I'm like, what do you mean? Question what? Let's go out. Let's party. Let's have fun. I'm like, no, really, like, have you ever like really just questioned what we're doing here? And no one seemed to really understand. So that kind of started my quest and my search for knowledge, once again, especially feeling very outcasted. So I spoke to my teachers at high school. I spoke to my parents. I went to psychologists. I talked to my doctor. I even sought out a priest at the time, since I was raised Catholic, to just ask everyone that I knew, what's going on? Why am I having these thoughts? And why don't I feel happy when society tells me that I should be feeling happy at this time? And so I was really at a loss, and no one that I spoke to could really give me the answers that I was looking for. But at the same time, I didn't even know what questions I was asking, right? So there was definitely a bit of a conundrum. And then eventually it was actually my dad who reached out and said, have you ever thought about a past life regression? And at the time, I'm like, no, I have no idea what that is. But if you think it's going to help, or if it's something that I haven't tried, I'm willing to do it. Because at that point in time, I was just kind of, I was at the end of my rope. So I went in for a past life regression. And basically, for those of you who don't know, it's putting someone into a trance-like state where they're able to remember and recall where they've been before within their Akashic records. And so this is pretty much what I did. I had no idea that there was such a thing as reincarnation, let alone past lifetimes, until I did this past life regression. And during this hour and a half long regression, I went into many lifetimes, lifetimes where I was an oracle, a healer, a philosopher, a leader, a channeler, but also lifetimes where I was enslaved and persecuted and killed and burned at the stake. And finally, I felt like I understood my purpose. In most of these lifetimes that I experienced, I was receiving knowledge and information from places that I was unable to see, and I was relaying this information through the eyes of being a teacher to the public. And so I finally kind of understood at the age of 16 what my purpose was here in this lifetime, to once again, tap in and spread as much truth, knowledge, and awakening as possible. And so at 16, I really felt like I found my purpose, and I started doing past life regressions on anyone who would even just listen to me. So friends, family members, then I went to university at 18, and anyone who was even open to the idea, even people who weren't, I would say, hey, can I put you into a trance? Can we see where you've lived before? Which is so beautiful, because during that time, I got to be the objective observer, taking in and understanding all of the lessons that other humans have learned throughout all of human history, which is really wild. And then at the age of 18, I had my second biggest breakthrough in this lifetime. And, I just left high school, super fresh, and I went to university in a town that I didn't grow up in, so I didn't know anyone. And the first thing that I wanted to do was go away to a meditation retreat. So I decided to go away for a 10-day silent meditation retreat called Vipassana. And it's no talking, no electronics, no writing, no even looking at anyone else. It's just you, yourself, your ego, for 10 days, which was so incredible. But the second night of the meditation retreat, I actually got abducted by aliens, by a species called the tall whites, even though, it's just, they don't really have a defined, type, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so I got abducted by this alien species. And at that point in time, sure, I started opening up and astral traveling. I started, communicating telekinetically. I started doing, or telepathically, I started doing all of these things. Yet the concept of aliens actually being here on this planet in the tangible, in the physical, that wasn't something that I really played with up until that point in time. So yes, I was very open, but that just wasn't really in my mind. Although, if you were to ask me at 18, do you believe in aliens? I'd be like, sure, I'm sure something else is out there, right? But it doesn't really concern me until I was actually abducted. So we can go into that experience. Vice News gave me an interview on that experience and things like that. So I've definitely said that experience quite a lot. We can go into it. But basically what happened was the tall whites, they took me on their ship. It was a very conscious experience, burned into my mind. They implanted me with some sort of chip in my right ear. And then they put me back, into my bed in the meditation retreat. And that happened on the second night. And so I was kind of like very apprehensive to move forward with the meditation retreat, but I continued through and they didn't take me again. But that right there, that experience of just being abducted consciously and being aware of the entire thing, that blew open my reality to the next level. Even though it was quite a fear-based abduction experience, it really basically blew the lid off of my reality of, first of all, not only are aliens actually real, but secondly, they are here and around this planet. And third, which was probably my biggest breakthrough in this lifetime, although I've had many, is that after my conscious abduction experience, and basically I went to go get the chip deactivated by this, quantum psychic healer, and she took care of that. But after the chip was deactivated, I started having very conscious and very vivid flashback and replay of all of my lifetimes off of this planet in other interdimensional bodies and as interdimensional beings in other dimensions. So boom, not only are aliens real, not only are they here, but I've actually been more interdimensional, more alien than I've ever been human. And that right there, that's when I started to open up about telekinesis, quantum physics, vibrational frequency. It was like everything in an instant came rushing back to me. And it was like all of the knowledge that I was suppressing for quite some time, came back in a flood. And that's when I really started to open up my third eye and my consciousness. And I got connected to the Galactic Federation of Light shortly after that. I've been in contact with many different species since then, not just physically, but definitely in the astral planes and the Palladian Council, Security Council within the Galactic Federation. I started to get connected to all of my, basically simultaneous souls that I currently exist with in other lifetimes, either in the past or the future, off of this planet, which is really cool. And then it was about 2 years ago when I was 24, where I got my first ever quantum hypnosis regression. So kind of like a past life regression, but a little bit different. And so I told a friend of mine who's this quantum hypnosis, beautiful woman, I said, look, I don't remember anything in my childhood, really, from around the age of 13, 14 back. And I'm like, what's going on there? And so we went into it, and turns out, I was actually abducted around 6 times between the age of 4 years old and the age of 13 years old. And with these abductions, I was basically taught this. I went to I call it Earth School. I physically went to a school where a bunch of other kids in pajamas were also at this school, and it was being taught by the Gray Zetas, the tall Gray Zetas, and they specifically taught me one-on-one individually about quantum physics, vibrational frequency, consciousness, everything you could possibly imagine, wave particle duality, string theory, entanglement, you name it. I've relayed that information. So one of the things that I really want to do in this lifetime is I want to merge science and spirituality. I want to take these crazy, insane concepts like parallel dimensions and simultaneous time and past lifetimes and reincarnation, and I want to prove them with quantum physics. So I've actually sat down and spoke with a lot of different physicists about what I can channel, and they've been quite blown away by the information that I've received rather than ever read. So the last thing I want to mention is, of course, I've been channeling since I was straight channeling very consciously since I was around 18, but I guess my whole life. But one of the things that I want to mention before we kind of divulge anything and everything that I channel is that everything that I know to be true, everything that we're going to be talking about today is channeled straight from the source. So I was taught at a very early age, 14, 15, 16, not to do any external research or keep it to the minimum as much as possible so that I can keep my connection to pure source and my relay and downloads of information as pure as possible and not get misinterpreted by other people's perception of the same truth. So I believe that we all have access to the information that I have access to. I am no different than anyone else. Maybe I just have more clarity, but I'm teaching everyone to get to the point where I am right now in understanding the information that I receive. So I always say that knowledge will set you free. And I truly believe that no matter it be a one-on-one session or a live video or, anything else, a webinar, the information that I give, it's knowledge, and it will unlock your DNA. It will wake you up, and you will feel it, right? So I really do believe that knowledge will set you free. And, that's why I try and receive the information as pure as possible. And then, of course, I've done a little bit of background, or I've spoken to physicists who have validated, what I've channeled, and they've actually put labels and theories to them. So that's really the extent of the research that I've kind of done is the comparison to different physics theories. So anyway, so that's a lot. It's a lot about me, right? Even though I'm only 26, it's a lot going on. I always say that it's never a dull moment in my reality. So we could literally talk about anything under the sun, and I am completely open to going into any direction. So it's a little bit about me, and you can kind of take it from there and let me know what interests you or what you think your viewers would really be interested in diving into tonight.
Okay, well, Kat in the chat room was wondering if humans have a third eye. By any chance, do celestial beings have a third eye?
Okay, that's a really cool question. Yeah, so definitely interdimensional beings do not necessarily work with the chakra system in the way that we do. They don't have something like a 7 chakra system. They have other vortexes and meridians within their body that they process energy from. And I have indeed seen some interdimensional beings who have like third eye type of energy centers. Like, for example, the Andromedans have this really beautiful, like sometimes it's a crystal, sometimes it's a gem, sometimes it's just pure white light, coming from their forehead, which is so gorgeous. So I've definitely seen, other energy centers within other beings, but it's not the same sort of 7 chakra system as we as humans have.
Yeah, and she had mentioned something about the 4th, 5th, and 6th eye. Like, how exactly does it work for these celestial beings?
I understand, I'm not sure about the 4th, 5th, and 6th eye. I understand that the higher in vibration and the higher in dimension you go, the more awareness, the more cognitive ability, the more intellect you have to comprehend bigger concepts and constructs within the universal flow, right, in consciousness. So yeah, it just gets more and more advanced the further you go. And if you really think about it, we're here confined to the 3rd physical dimension, which can be very limiting. And then what I've channeled is that there's 12 dimensions within this universe, but then of course there's infinite multiverses as well. So it's so infinite of who beings are, what they could do, how they can conceive and perceive and take in information and energy.
We also had another question here from Jason, and he's asking, so you're beyond the astral travel and your soul is entering other beings, or how exactly do you gain this knowledge from them?
Okay, very cool. Yeah. So most of the knowledge that I have, that I gain access to, it comes from 2 different sources, but of course infinite sources as well, but 2 main ones. One of them is just pure source consciousness, right? So I just go I travel right into the center of the universe, which is where pure source is. And that's where I receive most of my downloads and information. And then I simultaneously also receive information and downloads from the other parallel versions of myself. So it's not that I'm special. I don't have these other selves and no one else does. Everyone in this entire universe has parallel versions of themselves. And in quantum physics, it's called something like superposition. which means that one atom can parallel another somewhere in the universe. And this is what I believe is happening. I also believe, I just want to kind of start with, time is simultaneous, right? So I don't believe that time happens in a linear way all throughout the universe. I actually believe that the past, the present, and the future are all simultaneously happening. So if you really think about it, all of yourselves on this planet in past lifetimes, and all of your other selves off of this planet in past lifetimes and in future lifetimes are all simultaneously existing right here, right now. And when you start to raise your vibration and hop into a different dimension, and what I usually work with is the fifth dimension, I surpass space and time, space being the third dimension, time being the fourth dimension. I surpass the third and the fourth dimension, tap right into the fifth dimension, and in that vibrational frequency where space and time do not exist, you are literally able to tap into an infinite amount of information, whether it be in the past or the future, from your parallel selves, and then from spirit guides and ascended masters and whatever else. But I really find that, tapping into your own source is the best way to go, and that's going from within. So that's why I kind of always put a disclaimer out there saying, hey, this is just what I channel. You can take it or leave it, because it's, I'm not everyone's teacher, sort of thing. But that's kind of how I experience superposition and simultaneous parallel lifetimes, which, once again, everyone is experiencing, not just me.
And she had reiterated with, I guess I didn't read it correctly, but she said, that's not it, Tessa. They have a 1/3, 1/4, and 1/5. And she said I had to get the whole thing. So, are you picking up what she's putting down? Because I'm still kind of lost here on that. But it's like a third, a fourth, and a fifth. Like 1/3,
right.
1/4, 1/5. Yeah.
I haven't really channeled anything about that specifically, so I don't really have the information for that.
So, were you able to see the ship that you were abducted into, or did they just take you into space? Like, how exactly did that work?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I always say the first time I was abducted, but it was more so the first conscious abduction that I had at 18. I was like super, it was more than a dream. Like it was so clear, so consciously clear. They took me up into their ship. It was, there was about 7 or 8 other tall white beings in front of me. And then there was this kind of giant metal machine to the right of me. And that's the machine that put the chip in my ear. And, everything on that ship was very clear. And I was in kind of a smaller room, sitting in a chair, really unable to move or talk. And it was a very fearful experience. And so I didn't really see much of the ship because I just was transported to that one room. However, when I was abducted between the age of 4 and 13, they took me on tours of their ship. They showed me their ecosystem. They showed me, it looked like a freaking shopping mall that they had on the ship. Like it was extensive. And it was so cool because you could basically open up a portal and teleport to anywhere in the ship, just by kind of doing something to the wall. So it was just like, that was an extensive overview of what that ship looked like, and how they were teaching these human children about quantum physics. And I've had a number of people reach out to me saying, Elizabeth, like I went to the same training program, right? I call it Earth School. They're like, I went to the same training program. I remember, the desks in a room and all of the kids in their PJs and, and the messed up hair. It's really, really interesting to kind of see that. But unfortunately, they waived my memory every time. They blacked out my memory when I was a kid. So I wasn't able to remember that, which I think was probably a very positive thing because I was already a weird kid as it was. So remembering an abduction by your alien cosmic family is maybe not the best thing to try and fit in. So,
right.
But yeah, so definitely a lot of vivid memories. Yeah.
And it is funny, when you grow up that way, like my paranormal experiences started very early in life. And to me, it was just normal. And, you know, I'd share it with different people, trying to make friends the way I felt was right. But people would be like, oh, this girl's crazy, get away. And so I was the odd one out, and I had very few friends. I was lucky to have one, you know. So I learned to kind of keep that within myself and kind of stay in the paranormal closet until 2012, when I felt like I just needed to get out and help people, because, you know, there were people that were in need of help. So yeah, it's kind of cool that you went through that whole same thing too. You had to find a different way to connect with people, because people just don't really understand it. It's kind of like the unknown, and they're just like, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah,
so until
absolutely.
You learn more about the people around yourself and how you can trust them or whatnot, yeah, it's just crazy. But that's pretty cool you went through that as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you find that you had a lull in your paranormal experiences at any time in your life, like where you weren't really having things paranormally happen to you, and then all of a sudden it just kicked back up again?
You know, I think I've really had some crazy experiences my whole life, but the lull especially would probably be between like 10 years old and 16, like when I really shut down my abilities, is kind of when that lull happened. And then 16 onward, it's just ramping up. Like it just gets more and more intense and crazier every single day, which is so amazing. And I'm just so grateful to be as grounded as I am and to be able to travel the universe as far as I go. You know, it's a pretty incredible experience to see both worlds simultaneously.
And for sure, and you know, the unknown is scary for people, but yeah, I found that I had it between the age of 8 and 13, and that's when my break was, and then after that it came back, and it just hasn't stopped since. And you know, and then I have kids, and you know, my husband is gifted, my kids are gifted, and once somebody was telling me this the other day, once one spirit knows, the rest of them know, and it's kind of like a beacon, and that's why this house is so active. And when I do my Facebook Live, like, people are like, oh, wow, I saw an orb. I saw 2 orbs. I saw, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff going on, but it's so interesting. Okay, so somebody's here saying, get my question, which I have a couple here for you. Sharon was wondering, how do I channel interdimensional beings, and why haven't I been abducted?
Okay, very cool. So yeah, I mean, how to channel interdimensional beings. Okay, this is really cool. There's so much that I could say on this. And I just want to say that it doesn't mean that you haven't been abducted just because you don't remember it, because I'm telling you, I had no idea. I was abducted, 6 times in childhood until I actually went through the regression, right? It was just completely blacked out. So never say never. And so as far as like for everyone, channeling interdimensional beings, it's quite simple when you take a look at absolutely everything in this entire universe as a vibrational frequency. Everything can be measured, right? Everything is either a solid or a wave. And so interdimensional beings are just on a different wavelength. They're on a different frequency, just like a radio station. They're on a different frequency. So all you have to do, you don't have to like try and meditate for 10 hours a day. You have to raise your vibration. You have to raise your frequency. And it's just not going to happen if you are in a lower vibrational frequency. So you could have all the knowledge in the world, right? You could really know that aliens are real. You could really believe in them. But until you meet these interdimensional beings halfway, you're not going to be able to experience them or connect with them at a lower vibration. It's just way too dense here in the third dimension. So you have to ask yourself, am I living my life in fear, right? A low vibrational frequency, the third dimension density, or am I living my life in love, right? And fear includes obligation, judgment, jealousy, grief. It includes resentment, all of those emotions, all of those attachments, all of those expectations, all of those habit patterns, the programming. That is your third dimension. That is your low vibrational frequency. essentially being human, the fight or flight, is the third dimension. It lowers us into this fear-based mentality where everything is a struggle, and the second that we break through the matrix and we literally do not feed into the fight or flight anymore, and we're just objectively aware of everything, and we choose when to play the game, when to be human, and when to tap in, which is basically what I've been able to do, that right there, that's when you can go wherever you want in the universe. That's when you can speak to any interdimensional being. And the number one thing about the high vibrational frequency, about the fifth dimension, it's love. It's the vibration of love. So as long as you love and you trust and you're going with the flow and you truly, are in alignment with your human and your non-human, that's when we can really ascend. And what I find that I've been telling my clients quite a bit lately is I've been telling them that they have to be more grounded. The more we know who our human is, the more we love our human in a physical way, the easier it is to ascend and to transcend to the next level, which sounds like a freaking paradox, right? It's like, what? Like, you want to be more spiritual? You want to connect to your guides? So be more human, right? It sounds like a paradox, but in actuality, your spirit guides and your cosmic soul family will not present themselves to you until you are completely solid, completely firm, and in complete appreciation and love with your human. The second that you fully love your human, they will present themselves to you. And the reason why is because a lot of the time, souls are like, oh, beautiful, the Palladians are my family, then why do I have to be grounded? Why do I have to be here? Why can't I always be astral traveling? Why can't I always just visit my family? And then we get very ungrounded, and then we don't do the work that we came here to do, which is anchor in the new vibration, anchor in the energy. So be more human, love your human more often, appreciate every ounce of this human existence. That right there is going to raise your vibration to the extent of actually meeting and matching the vibration of your guides.
So true. And it is all about love and light and appreciating this life, because it is a gift and not everybody gets to experience it. So many people are taken so early in life, and babies, children, and even young adults, and even adults into their middle ages. Like, you should be able to live a long and fruitful and healthy life, but I think there's a reason that they are taken. They attain so much knowledge, and they are so grounded and so gifted, and they're needed for another purpose. And I've been through hard times where I don't really see what the point is, but then I get to the point where, I have a near-death experience, or different realizations coming through, and you look at the stars and they're so much brighter, and things are so beautiful, and it really is a hard and harsh world that we're living in, but it also is a very beautiful world, and it kind of is what you make it. And I just wish everybody could appreciate that gift we've been given and appreciate your human life. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience, basically. So that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, Robin was asking, what crystals would you recommend to use with tarot or oracle right now? And he said, I have labradorite.
Beautiful. It's so funny. Right when you were asking that question, labradorite popped into my mind. So that was the first one I was going to suggest. So fantastic. You're already, intuitively tapping into exactly what you need. 100% labradorite has been really coming up recently, and it's not a crystal that I usually work with or have. So 100% that to kind of ascend to the next vibration. Amethyst, absolutely. I love working with just pure clear quartz. Fantastic. And then the other one that I would recommend at this time, more so for chakra clearing and healing and protection, and I've got it right around me, is selenite. So using the selenite as a wand, it is honestly, one of the most powerful crystals, and also one of the cheapest, which is really kind of a double win there. So that's really fantastic. So definitely get some selenite.
Yes, it's a very important stone. I agree. I like carrying tourmaline and selenite, and they both have their different uses.
Yep.
One to protect me, and one to bring the light in. But I didn't learn about that until I met my mentor, and she taught me so much, and then she passed away from cancer, and then I'm still kind of learning from her books when I have time. Life's been kind of crazy and busy lately, but I do try to carry those with me and carry different things in my pocket. And, when I'm pulling out my change, people kind of look at me funny sometimes, but I think it really does work. BTO, I don't know if this is really a question. He's making different statements in the chat room, and he said, when someone discussed the Galactic Federation of Light, the Tall Whites, Asgard Command, the Akashic Records, that's a red flag. And stuck on fourth dimension, the fourth dimension is like an onion, many layers, that people confuse those layers with fourth, fifth, and beyond dimensions. And then he goes on to say, plenty of astral spirit battles with both false light and false dark. Again, this universe is based on polarities, so there are organic light and dark. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, he brings up such a good point, and I'm so glad that they do bring that up, because it's so tough. Like, it's really tough to have information that spans the entire universe and simultaneous time and in dimensions and without dimensions, and then try and actually conceive that and relay it to something without saying too much and not explaining everything. Like, it's really difficult. So the point that I think he's bringing up is, Ashtar Command, Galactic Federation, other dimensions, it's all still limiting, right? And so it all still kind of traps us into this matrix, and it really does. So there's like kind of a distinction that's really important to make that I really should have made at the beginning, which is, and this is, once again, what I've channeled, what I believe, what I've downloaded, take it or leave it. If it resonates, fantastic. If not, not a big deal. What I've channeled is that there's 12 dimensions within this universe, right? Once again, many multiverses. So there are the dimensions, which I consider the matrix. So it's not just this planet that's within the matrix. It's every single dimension, in this universe that's within the matrix. And then there's just universal source energy that does not exist with binaries. It does not exist with time, and it does not exist with space. It is just pure oneness. It is everything and nothing at the same time. It's just pure white light. And then that source has basically created all of these dimensions to learn certain things from. So what I've channeled and downloaded, I'm like, what's the purpose of life? Like, what are we doing here? So what I've channeled and downloaded is that every dimension has a subset of lessons that we can learn within the parameters of each dimension. Therefore, we are here existing the third physical dimension. So within this very visceral, this very physical vessel, this body, what lessons can we learn in the third dimension? We can learn lessons of pain. We can learn lessons of sensation. We can learn lessons of emotions, of attachment, of material, of all of these things, of categorizing, of separating, of labeling. These so many lessons to learn. So say, for example, there's 2,000 lessons to learn in every single dimension. Once you've basically learned all of the lessons in every dimension created and projected here in this matrix reality, we then go back to source, we go back to oneness, we go back to everything, quote unquote, enlightenment or whatever, you want to call it. But it is an important distinction to make. And one of the things, that shocked me the most when I started to astro travel and meet all of these different beings across the universe was, what? There's still light and dark? You're saying you're an 8th dimension Palladian being and you're battling dark energy? Like, what? Haven't you resolved that? Like, it doesn't just the fear and the love exist only on this planet? Wait, what? There's a galactic federation? You're saying that it's similar to the UN here on this planet? What? You still exist within a government system? You can't self-organize? You're not that advanced? You're not that intelligent? So what shocked me the most was, holy crap, we're just repeating the same thing, the same structure over and over and over again. And the reason why is because, once again, contained within the 12 dimensions with this matrix reality, there is a subset of the laws of physics that every being that is separate from source, every incarnation, no matter what dimension you're in, every being has to learn, right? You have to go through and you have to abide by the laws of physics, which I feel like we still don't really fully understand here on this planet, and you have to abide by the universal laws of truth, right? So the non-physical laws and the physical laws, and within those parameters and within those limitations in this universe, there's a lot of repetition. So it really shocked me that we couldn't be better than it's like, what, like how are we still battling light and dark in the 12th dimension? It doesn't make sense to me. But also, once again, this entire matrix system exists within the binaries, right? And you really have to understand the light in order to understand the dark, and vice versa, and then just remove yourself from both and saying, it's so nice to be neutral. But then neutrality kind of neutralizes everything. So I don't know. But thank you for bringing up that point, because I really think that a lot of people need to understand and discern the difference between individual consciousness and source consciousness, right? Which is just oneness, and it doesn't exist within binary. Individual consciousness, separate from source, exists within binaries and the parameters within this matrix universe. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I say a lot of words that probably mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, but I really hope that a lot of you are still with me and kind of understanding the content and information that I've received.
BTO followed up with, since you have reached the edges of this universe, who do you consider source to be? And secondary, have you been beyond this universe?
Cool. Very, very cool. Okay. So it's so interesting. It's, okay. This is how I explain source, right? So I've done a lot of channeling on what is God, what is source, what is this, what is that. So source is not an individual existence. And the way that I explain source, it's just oneness. It's all consciousness. It's all light. It's all vibration. And so I explain source as a body of water. Think about all of the water on this planet. Think about the entire ocean, the span of this planet and all of the water on it, right? So the water itself is pure, this is an analogy, okay? Water itself, the ocean itself is pure source energy. So it's everything. It's oneness. It's conscious. It's intelligent. You can speak to it. You can receive from it. You can, upgrade from it or whatever, right? So that's like life. We are water beings. We live off of the water. The water is within us. We are a part of the water, but we're also separate from water, okay? And then think about every single drop of water in the ocean, and each drop of water being a separate individual expression of source. And then you put all the drops, you put all the individual consciousness, individual whatever separations from source, you put them all together and it creates one source. It's not just one being. It's not one vibration. It never comes to me as a face. It's just pure light. It's just beautiful. So, and a lot of the time it looks like sacred geometry actually. But anyway, so that's kind of how I explain source energy. It's kind of like the ocean. It's and then when you freeze, right? When you freeze that water, you get all of these individual snowflakes that look all entirely different than the last, right? And then you get these beautiful individual expressions of source, of consciousness, which is so beautiful. And then melted together, it's oneness, and there's no separation between the drops. So hopefully that kind of resonates and makes sense.
For sure. And he said, with regards to oneness, is there individual unity and collective oneness?
So kind of what's the difference between individual unity and collective oneness? What I've perceived, what I've been able to channel is that there's just a collective consciousness is what I would call it. But then there's and then when you go back into the dimensions and you go back into individuality and you go back into the parameters of this matrix universe, then you can see things like oversouls and ascended masters and, all of those different types of groups of consciousness. What's that? Esther Hicks channels Abraham Hicks. And I believe that's I don't listen to her, but I believe that's a collective consciousness, right? So then we kind of start seeing these groups, right? These soul groups, which is so beautiful. But once again, that's not source. That group is not just pure source. It's a part of source. It has source within them, or else they wouldn't be conscious. But it isn't just source itself. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Okay. And then Jason was wondering, what do you think about Devil's Tower? Do you know what Devil's Tower is? And what are your thoughts on it? Devil's Tower. Okay. we've had a little kind of discussion or argument on what it is. It basically looks like a giant petrified tree stump. And some of us are Team Rock and some of us are Team Stump. So perhaps during the break you can look that up and give us your thoughts on that. But yeah, it's been kind of an ongoing thing here in SOR, and he was just wondering what your take was on that. But that's okay. In our SOR Space Travelers, Dell was wondering about, and let me scroll up here again, what your thoughts are on the string theory.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, absolutely. So I truly believe that everything is a vibrational frequency. Everything is a wave, and also everything is interrelated, right? The ripple effect of the universe. So, part of the string theory is the double slit experiment, which is, and this is beautiful, and this is why I really ruffle a lot of feathers when it comes down to Christianity and religion. So I'm sorry if anyone here is a religious, because, you're definitely not going to like this. And so what I say, right, is that we are our own God. And what I mean by that is that we are the creators of our reality, right? It is completely up to us from the point of singularity, of singularity from source, from the point of creation. It's up to us to create our own reality. And this is actually proven by quantum physics and the double slit experiment. So basically, through observation, through conscious observation, we are creating the world around us. And so it's kind of difficult to explain, but basically, whatever you do not perceive, whatever you're not viewing, whatever you don't see. So whatever's behind you right now, all of you listening, whatever's behind you that you cannot see right now, apparently, based on quantum physics, and I truly believe this, everything behind you is simultaneously in a state of wave as well as a state of solid, right? So everything and nothing simultaneously exists behind you. It's in a state of chaos. And it is only through our conscious observation where we put all of the atoms into something that's solid, right, into a particle form. And so that's kind of like my understanding of the way that we create and perceive and project and how everything is kind of interconnected and interrelated. So I really truly believe we are our own God, because we are consciously creating and viewing and observing and hopping into parallel dimensions and parallel realities in every single moment. So
that's awesome. And we got some other things coming through here. Let's see. Kat was saying the tree stump Devil's Tower is the leftovers of the Gaia tree from an ancient past. And she did hashtag Team Stump, which I'm on Team Stump. Other people are on Team Rock. And we go back and forth. And it's really fun. It's kind of like a friendly, fun little thing that we do. But going back to BTO, he said, but collective oneness is more hierarchical, whereas unity oneness is knowing that one another is one, and individual oneness is basically one is all that is, aka an individual creator self as for the universe individual oversoul. He shared his analogy regarding how we enter this universe being an intact glass and then getting fragmented, broken into pieces, but the biggest piece is the oversoul. He's got
absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of interesting takes on things, and I love hearing everybody's thoughts and interpretations on things. And when you were talking about us being, gods ourselves, as a child, after my mom was killed by a drunk driver, and I was with my dad, I was constantly reaching out for, being that she was the spiritual person in my life, being gifted as well, and being able to talk to the dead and such. I was always looking for that spiritual outlet. And eventually I got baptized into the LDS church, and they actually talk about, when you pass and you go to the other side, whatever, we all become gods and we all create our own worlds and our own universes. So that kind of, resonates with me. I'm basically a Jack Mormon now. I'm not a member of the church, but I take things that I learn from different religions and apply what I agree with into my life and let the rest of it go. I'm more of a spiritual being than a religious being, because I know that's so much more important, and people kind of take the religious thing to a different thing that they really shouldn't make it. Did you grow up in a certain church or religion?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, and so when I was around, I think it was maybe 4 or 5, I would be talking to a spirit guide of mine who was an interdimensional being, and I would go to my dad and I would say, Dad, I'm talking to God, right? And it was so interesting because, I learned through church and through the Bible that if you're talking to something that no one else can see, basically, then you're talking to God, right? Or you're talking to the devil, right? It's one or the other. So of course, I'm like, oh, I'm talking to God. But I actually told my dad, but I'm like, Dad, I'm talking to God, but the Bible has it wrong because God is actually a female. And so, I was very firm on this, that God was a female, because I was talking to this female being that I couldn't see. And then now I just understand it to be, one of my spirit guides, or maybe it was just a spirit, but, very beautiful soul that I was, connecting with. So yeah. And then, after a while, I kind of started to look at the Catholic Church as very, I don't know, it kind of felt very confining, almost even very cult-like, and I didn't really like the energy. I got a huge panic and anxiety attacks every time I would step foot into a church, and I'm not sure why, but that's kind of how I felt about that. And then I finally told my parents, I can't go to church anymore. I can't do that. It doesn't resonate with me. So.
Yeah, there's too many people being judgmental, and that's really not our place. That's God's place to be the judge, and everyone else just needs to figure out their own thing and love one another and, help take care of each other and raise each other up. And I don't see the point of tearing each other down and looking down your nose at people. And that's what kind of took me away from being in church, because you shouldn't go somewhere where you should feel this unity and oneness and fellowship, but feel like an outcast and people are judging you. That's not your place. And I know that for myself, as far as that's not my place. You can tell me whatever you want to, and I'll listen and I'll give you my input, but I'm not going to judge you because, I'm not God. But yeah, I do wear a cross, and I also have my St. Michael medallion. Even though I'm not Catholic, I have faith in St. Michael, and I do believe greatly in him, and he's helped me through a lot of stuff. But there's certain things you can take from certain things, and it's pretty awesome. It's just all in what you need as far as your faith and to be a strong individual. But on that note, we got to go to our first break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Hey, guess what? You can now get your brand new Spaced Out Radio swag at spacedoutradio.com. We've brought the store back with all new items for you to pick out and pick up for yourself, your family, or friends. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, we got it all. All you have to do is head to our website and click on Store. Choose what you want and it's shipped to you. The Spaced Out Radio store is right there for you. Come shop with us at spacedoutradio.com. Then we can own the night together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com. If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR at the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT, on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to Spaced Out Weekend host, Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Hear the sound again, voices dancing in my head.
Hey guys, welcome back and thanks so much for tuning in with us tonight. Tonight we have Psychic Elizabeth April on, and we're talking about all kinds of stuff, and right now we're focusing on oneness, and man, I can't even name off all the things we've been talking about. But thanks so much for being on the show tonight, Elizabeth. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and for all of your listeners who are, asking some really awesome questions. I really appreciate it, and it feels like, people are definitely groomed, on this station to really be on a level and comprehend what I'm really interested in. So it's been really great talking about what brings me so much passion.
So Craig was asking, there is only one love within us all, agree or disagree, and all our ills are simply due to our corrupted perception and attachment. Okay. If I were to just kind of keep it really binary, agree or disagree, absolutely agree. Yeah, we definitely all have, love, source, oneness, vibration, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, right? Like language can be so limiting, but we all have that within us. And then the reason why we have hardships and the reason why we have challenges is because we put that on our path in order, like we signed contracts of all of our downfalls, all of our decisions, all of our, quote unquote mistakes, which I don't really believe in, right? We put that all in front of our path. We signed contracts to experience all of that, to learn. Because honestly, if we had everything and there was no challenge and there was nothing to worry about or no binary to experience, life would be boring, right? Source created itself through individuals to help evolve itself, and probably through a little bit of boredom too. I'm kind of kidding on that one, right? It doesn't really exist with Source, but if you did have everything, right? Like what else is there to do? There's actually nothingness, right? So in this state of everything, you want to go back to the state of nothingness so that you can really just kind of go through, the whole cycle again and re-experience itself in different ways and different expressions. And it's such a beautiful kind of existence that we have here. Light, dark, good, bad, ugly, it's incredible. And we really, truly have to appreciate everything for exactly what it's worth, because we are here. We signed up for these contracts. We're living this life for a reason. And it's really important to be in the present moment. Craig was asking, so would you say the key to mankind becoming a harmonious species is so simple as feeling whole within?
Yes, absolutely. Going within, trusting yourself, I believe that if everyone were to stop distracting themselves with the binary, with politics, with religion, with attachment, with expectation, with judgment, if we were to literally stop playing the game of the binary reality on this planet, then we would all experience pure source, pure oneness, pure love. Therefore, we no longer have to be attached or controlled by the system. Right? It really is as simple as that. Let go of distraction, let go of attachment, and go within to experience the truth of what the universe has to offer. We are very special beings here as human beings. We are an incredible third dimension species who's able to literally raise our vibrations and experience other dimensions, and even, beyond dimensions as well, which is so incredible. So, actually, I just remembered a question that someone asked me before and then I didn't really answer. They asked, have you ever gone outside of this universe? Have you ever experienced outside of this universe? And someone asked me a question in one of their one-on-one sessions, and they said, can you show me what exists beyond this universe? And I said, okay. So I literally astral travel basically to the outer reaches, outer edges of this universe. And I get into this space, and it looks like, if I were to paint a picture, because I'm very visual with what I receive, if I were to paint a picture, it would be a torus. Like, I don't know if you know what a torus energy looks like, right? Everything in this, existence exists with a torus energy field. And so there was this huge torus energy, and then there was all of these little lights in this kind of black abyss, and all of the little lights made up the energy and the whatever gravitational pull. I'm not sure the polarity, the magnetic force. I'm not sure, what was behind that, but all of these little lights were creating this flow of this Taurus energy. And when I asked what the little lights were, they told me that they were all of these infinite amounts of multiverses, right? So it's very clear that there's an infinite amount of other universes out there, just like there's an infinite amount, an inconceivable amount of other species out there within the universe, right? So it really is ridiculous to think that we are the only intelligent life, out there in the universe, let alone even on this planet, right? So it's really cool to kind of wake up to the possibilities.
And then here, let's see. Going back to making sure I'm getting this in order. Craig was wondering, what path to oneness would you recommend and why?
Okay, great question, Craig. Okay, this is what I've channeled. This is really cool. I literally just relayed this in a live video of mine a couple weeks ago. I was talking about enlightenment, right? Like, once again, please leave your semantics, semantics, at home, and just kind of like feel the vibration of this information rather than getting caught up in the words, right? So we call it enlightenment. We call it going back to source, awakening, whatever it may be, right? But let's just, for sake of ease, let's just call it enlightenment. And all I want to define enlightenment as, not the Buddhist enlightenment, but the enlightenment of you are free from any and all confines within the binary structure, within the dimensional structure, within the matrix, right? So you're going back to source. So there's two pathways throughout all of your lifetimes, on and off this planet, in and out of dimensions, all of your lifetimes. There are two pathways to enlightenment. There's two pathways back to source. This is really cool. I love talking about this. So once again, keep it in mind. One pathway is knowledge and one pathway is love. Okay. This is just what I've channeled. So, souls. So once again, this plays upon the binary within this reality. And there's a lot of ways that you can kind of, play upon knowledge and love, but you can also explain the pathway of knowledge and the pathway of love as the pathway of divine masculinity with knowledge, or the pathway of divine femininity, which is love, right? Both are equally beautiful and high vibrational, right? But very different. And right away, I bet you everyone is thinking, what am I? Am I taking the path of knowledge, or am I taking the path of love? Or maybe you're one of those rarities who's actually combining both knowledge and love, both divine feminine and masculine, into your existence in every lifetime, right? So if you take the path of knowledge, it basically means you conceptualize, you understand, and you bring together all of the information within this known universe, and you move through your lessons really quickly because you're like, boom, I get it. I understand. Okay, let's go. I'm analyzing, I'm conceiving, I'm problem solving, I'm putting it all together. And here I am. I'm at source, right? So that's great. So that's the pathway of knowledge. Now, the pathway of love, right? It's like, if you could imagine like a squiggly line, it's like, oh, this feels really right. Let me go in this direction. Oh, that was not a good direction. Oh, but this feels good. Oh, let's go in this direction, right? So you're really like, pathway of love is just all about, divine feeling and emotion and vulnerability and connection. And what I find with the pathway of love is that it takes longer. Okay. It takes longer, but as you're going through the vibration of love and you're utilizing the divine feminine, you're learning your lessons and you're taking in knowledge along the way. So typically when you're going through divine femininity, you're also learning lessons because you're like, oh, that felt right, but that didn't work out. So I learned a lesson from that. So now I'm going over here because this feels right, right? So it takes a lot longer, but you're also incorporating the knowledge with it. You can go on the knowledge path to enlightenment or to pure source, and you can basically not even consider love whatsoever and just experience the light and the dark, without that divine femininity. And what happens to people who take the pathway of knowledge, which is what I've mostly taken, and now I'm learning to balance feminine and masculine. So the problem with the pathway of knowledge is that it'll get you there really fast, but either pathway you choose to get back to source, you have to incorporate both simultaneously. At the end of the day, to get back to source, you have to have full knowledge and full love, full divine masculinity and full divine femininity combined in order to get back to source. And so basically, at the end of your knowledge spree, you're going to hit a brick wall right before entering into source because you then have to open up be vulnerable, deprogram yourself, and start to feel. And it's really difficult to only gain access to knowledge, information, and then all of a sudden rewrite everything that you know about just knowledge and then start to experience life. So some people get really stuck on being forced to learn the love or the divine femininity when they've been so after the knowledge for such a long time. So that's a great question, and hopefully that kind of makes sense of the two pathways that I've received of how to get back to source energy and what we're here to really experience if we really break it down to two binary things.
So Ron is saying, yes, please explain oneness in 30 words or less. Like, you're really going to count your words as you're saying them. But can you describe oneness to him as you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I would describe, okay. This is how I would describe oneness. Oneness is collective consciousness without binaries or limitations. That's how I would describe oneness.
And you did that in less than 30 words. That's awesome. So Kat was saying, and I got to turn this sideways because when I took the snapshot, it didn't turn out quite as I had planned. But she said, I have known my path since I was 3. It has gone exactly as was shown to her. The one thing is, she's tired of waiting for this one point. Is there a way to influence your path to speed events up?
Okay. I mean, this is a very broad question. It's very difficult to say, do this one thing and it's going to get you there, right? Because everyone is experiencing a different reality. So it's really difficult to kind of pinpoint one thing. But what I would recommend for anyone who is feeling blocked or stuck or held back, which is a lot of people right now because we're in the middle of a major awakening, we're in the middle of a major shift. What I would say is pinpoint what in your life right now is lacking, right? So is it your relationship? Is it your family? Is it your finances? Is it your belief system? Is it your job? Is it your confidence? Is it your motivation? Is it your connection, to others? Like, what is in your life? What in your life is lacking? What isn't completely fulfilled? And whatever that may be is something that you have to target before you can get to that point of whatever it is that you saw, whether it be abundance or awakening or spirituality or being abducted, remove the block, target the lack, and that's when you're going to experience movement moving forward into awakening.
Yeah, and she was saying she wanted to basically manipulate the matrix. And then she, as you're talking, she's like, check, all these things that she's checked off.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so, I'm not sure what in her is feeling blocked because, I just want to let you know that all it takes is really sitting down with intention to say, I want to tap into the matrix and I want to take a look at the foundations of this reality, or I want to break through the matrix, and having that firm intention. So removing the blocks, being aware of the lack or whatever it may be, you should be set up to create that. But I also truly believe everything in divine timing. And I'm really impressed at the amount of people who have been in a very long, beautifully ignorant slumber for such a long time, who are waking up so dramatically at this time. And, I've got lawyers reaching out to me saying, Elizabeth, I don't know what's going on. I was working a 70-hour work week and all of a sudden, I got really sick and it hit me. I started understanding the entire universe. And I'm like, yep, welcome to the party, right? So just know that whatever the point is that you're looking for, breaking through the matrix or understanding it, set the intention, have a clear goal in mind. But the more that you have an expectation, the more you're creating an attachment. And anything that you're attached to, whether it be physical or non-physical, you're pushing away from yourself. You're simultaneously pushing away as you're attaching. So maybe it's something that you just have to let go of, completely surrender to, and that's when you're going to experience what you're looking for, So just kind of, being aware of that.
And then we have Robin, how can we get in contact with our hybrid selves?
Very cool. Once again, lots of ways to do this. I want to go back to the rudimentary basics, which is, make sure your human is grounded. Make sure you know who your human is and you've got those beautiful connections to yourself as a human, right? And then we can start to basically raise our vibration, set the intention of wanting to meet your parallel self. A lot of the times, especially in this community, if you've been really drawn to Arcturus or Orion or the Andromedan star system or the Pleiades or whatever, most likely if you're drawn to one species or another, that's a part of your cosmic soul family. So just being aware that your soul deeply, right down to it, already knows who you're connected to and who you really are. And it's just a process of remembering yourself. So asking for downloads, for DNA unlocks, for awakenings, right before bedtime, in dreams, those kind of things are really going to help you kind of transmute, transcend, and connect to your hybrid self and your parallel selves.
Okay, and then the next one I had was from Craig, and he said, even when we murder one another, is it not an act of love, either self-justification or protection of attachment? Is our version of love not false, a false, egoic, unbalanced love?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I believe that both the light and the dark are an illusion. I believe that both love and fear are an illusion. And a lot of people they're not fully there with me, or they don't fully, they don't really agree with me on that, right? That both love and fear are an illusion. They're like, oh, if love is an illusion, then what is there, right? But it's not, it's like, once again, semantics. Words are so limiting. And the love that we initially perceive is a love full of obligation, a love full of expectation, a love full of attachment, a love full of programming. It's not really the pure love that I see within pureness and oneness and source. So, I believe the love that we experience here on this planet is limiting and it's projected most of the time. I believe that pure love, which I just like to call high vibration because even the word love is so misconceived. So, a high vibrational frequency can really only be experienced in the purest sense outside of the body, especially when connected to pure source. And anything that we experience that is close to that is just a fraction of what, that pure source energy really feels like. If we're like, I call it cosmic euphoria. If you're feeling this beautiful connection, it's incredible. But once again, because we're human, because we're living a linear and limited existence, we can only experience one part of pure source, one part of pure love. Everything else is pretty much a distraction and a deflection and projection of what we think it should be rather than just what it is.
Awesome. So the next one is from BTO, and he said, most earthly humans are universal ancient beings, yet the extra/interdimensional beings consider us newbies, so to speak. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that we are ancient beings reaching the culmination of mastering this universe, or are we newbies?
Okay, that's a great question. This is I'm writing a book on this right now. There's just so much to go into. So one of the biggest things that I've questioned, especially in stepping into this world, especially in the channeling that I've done, the biggest question since I was 18 is why us and why now, right? The biggest baffling part to this whole equation is we are this lowly, caveman, rudimentary, third dimension species. Why do we have so much interdimensional attention on us right now at this time? It's insurmountable and inconceivable why an anthill of a species, being the human beings, are attracting so much attention, right? So that was my biggest question. It always has been, why us? Why now? It doesn't make sense. What is the missing piece to this? So this is a lot. This is pretty intense. Once again, take it or leave it, but this is what I've channeled. I believe that we are, as humans, I believe that we are a master race, okay? And I believe that we are a hybrid race. We're not just human. We're not just apes. We're not just, ascended from this planet, not even close to that. I believe that we are a combination species, a hybrid species between many different interdimensional beings. The main species that I have channeled that we are a part of, there's many, but the main ones are the Palladians, the Anunnaki, the Dracos, the reptilians, the Zeta, and what's the fifth one? Oh, there's another. Palladians, angels. What is? Oh yeah. Did I say Zeta? Anyway, yeah. So those are definitely the main ones. Sorry, I'm totally missing one here. But once again, the Palladians, the Anunnaki, the reptilians, and the Zeta, the Greys. And so they basically combined their genetics and their DNA throughout a process of time, to create who we are today. And so, okay, once again, you can believe this or not. This is what I've channeled and been told by, other beings and source and whatever, is that the human race on this planet has been prophesized within the Galactic Federation and the universal source structure. We have been prophesized to be a master species. And the reason why there's such a prophecy around the humans is because there's so many different reasons, but basically with our capabilities and abilities, with the different DNA structures that we have, we are supposedly able to reach source energy faster than any other species in this entire universe. Okay, so we're powerful, right? I mean, we are this hybrid species, and we've got a lot of power to us. But with the extreme of the light, of course, comes the dark, and then you get the corruption, and you get the programming, and you get the consciousness grid, and you get the prison planet system, and you get the Dracos and whatever, right? So with the light comes the dark, and we're so powerful that we've basically been tried to be controlled this entire time. And a big piece of the puzzle that I just kind of channeled a couple of years ago was that we, as this master species, this hybrid species, we are meant to end the war of all wars. And for those of you who know, there is an epic battle going on out there in the universe, and the battle is technically between the light and the dark. And there's all these low vibrational species out there in the universe who are battling all of the high vibrational species, and there really isn't a whole lot of peace. There's not a lot of harmony within the universe, which once again baffled me, because I'm like, you guys are interdimensional, high intelligent beings who are battling, like we do on planet Earth. And so basically, humans were created under certain contracts within the federation of whatever the universe, right? We were created to be the species to end all wars. And the contracts were, if the humans were able to get along, if the humans were able to harmonize, to co-create, to love one another, despite the race, despite the language, despite the culture, despite the belief in religion, if we were able to all get along, then it would basically create a peace treaty within all of the species out there in the universe, so that finally peace and harmony can come together, and the battle, the epic battle between light and dark, ceases to exist as we know it. And that's why there's been a lot of, what do we call it? Like a lot of corruption that has happened on this planet, because it's attracted these darker beings who don't want us to succeed. They want to keep fighting. They want to keep being in fear, because for them, to end the fight is to end their existence, because that's all they know to be true. So that's kind of why I believe humans are so important, and why I believe, we are basically, there's so much attention on us. So one more thing I want to mention, because there's just so much information. I also believe, which is a very, I think, religious concept, but it's also been a part of ancient scriptures for a very long time, which is the concept of the 144,000. And, I channeled the Galactic Federation back in 2012. I had my first meeting with them, and they basically told me that there is a prophesized amount of interdimensional cosmic starseed rainbow moon children beings who are meant to come to this planet to seed the planet with high vibrational frequency to raise the collective consciousness on this planet, so that we can all ascend to the fifth dimension and therefore end the wars that are happening on this planet, and in retrospect, ending the wars that are happening within the universe. We need to realize and understand that planet Earth and all of the inhabitants on it are a microcosm of the macrocosm within this universe. And so the 144, basically how I understand it, is as soon as we have 144,000 souls compared to the 7 billion souls we have on this planet, as long as we have 144 of these very high vibrational ascended masters, interdimensional beings, these ambassadors, if we have these beings on this planet being born and anchoring in their cosmic vibration, that's going to be enough for the tipping point for all of us to raise our vibration and to basically stop being controlled by the matrix programming. And I do believe, that I am a part of this 144,000, and so I get invited to all of the meetings. Like there's these meetings of the 144,000, and they give us updates on the consciousness and the awakening of humanity, and what we can say and what we shouldn't say, and what people are ready for and what they're not ready for. And people are ready. Really starting to open up to the next level of vibration. So I know that was like a lot of information and super long-winded, but hopefully you guys were all kind of with me with understanding who are humans and why are we so important, and are we interdimensional beings, which absolutely we are, and we're this master species of really understanding all of the lessons contained within the universe on one planet, which is just completely, next level incredible.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions coming in right now. The first one is from BTO, and he said, with regards to this particular multiverse within the omniverse, do you feel that most us humans are universal creators of unique universes within this multiverse?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yes, absolutely, I do. It's so interesting. So basically, we separate from pure source, right? Oneness, whatever you want to call it. We separate from that, and then we go back to dimension number 1. It doesn't have to be linear in that way, but just to kind of conceive it properly, we go back to dimension number 1. We learn all of the lessons in all of the dimensions. We understand the binary. We understand this universe. And then after we're done, we have the option of, do you want to join the original source that you came from, or do you want to become your own source? And do you want to create your own universe? And boom, of course you want to. Who wouldn't want to create their own universe? So so it's really interesting. I've channeled so many different beings and their journeys and their soul and cosmic mission and why they came to this planet. And it's really wild. It's so next level, and it's just so incredible for me to be in the observer position to kind of take in all of this information. So we have the capacity to go through all the lessons and then become source again, and then individualize ourselves again, and then go through all the stages and the lessons and the binary and the linear, again and again and again and again, which is so cool.
Okay, taking snapshots, I have another question here from Andrew, and if he said, if we're such a master race, how come all we seem to know is destruction, violence, and more destruction?
Okay, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Very, very viable question there. Once again, it was known throughout the entire universe that we were the ones, that we were the species, Could you imagine if there was a school on this planet somewhere that had like 20 kids, and all 20 of these kids were had superpowers, right? Don't you think that would attract the most kind-hearted, beautiful souls on this planet to say, we want to help support you and grow you and evolve you? And then don't you think that those kids would also simultaneously attract the darkest of the dark, saying, we do not want you to get out there. We do not want you to succeed. We do not want you to usurp our species. And so what's happened is with the basically with the DNA structure of the reptoids, right, the Dracos, we have the reptilian brain. What does the reptilian brain do? It is our fight or flight mechanism. What is absolutely every single structure on this planet set up to do? It's set up to trigger what? Our fight or flight mechanism, right? So no matter it be religion, government, polarity, the right wing, the left wing, the media, the reality TV, the bullshit that's, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, the stuff that's projected out there into this reality, right? Every single thing that we are consuming triggers our fight or flight mechanism, including the water that we drink and the food that we eat, right? So why aren't we awakened? Why aren't we these incredible, powerful beings? It's because we've been controlled this entire time. This entire time we have been controlled at the very rudimentary structure system of our entire societal setup all across this planet.
And Trip was asking, kind of, along with what you were saying just a little bit ago, then why have they waited so long? Would have been way easier to do it while humans only used bow and arrows.
Right, of course. Okay. So now we're kind of getting into the hidden human history of this planet. And, of course, me being the channeler that I am and being able to surpass time itself, it's like, why wouldn't I want to, rewrite the history books and tap into ancient Greece and ancient Rome and ancient Egypt and take a look at what was actually going on back then, right? So with my ability to basically tap into any time across this planet and within the universe, I've been kind of able to piece together the hidden human history. And I mean, once again, I could talk about this all night, but I really want to keep this short here. And what I want to say is that at a certain point in time, we had a lot of interdimensional beings walking around with humans. And at that time, humans were a slave race. We were a slave species, and we were very, very rudimentary. Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyway. And so, wait, hold on. What was the question again? I know I had a point to this.
Okay, I think I still have it. No, I erased it. Hold on one second. Okay, so he's saying, if they were going to take over, why didn't they do it while we still were using bow and arrows? Right.
Okay, yes. So at a certain point in time during ancient Egypt, the Galactic Federation came to this planet, right? So the kind of like the government structure within the universe that I really don't agree with. They came to this planet, but they're for the good. They're really good guys. So they came to this planet and they said, look, Anunnaki, look, reptilians, you have to get off the planet. You have to stop intervening into humans' lives. You have to stop corroding and corrupting them. You have to lay off, basically. And so one of the laws of the universe is the law of non-intervention. No matter if you're a Palladian being, an Anunnaki being, or a reptilian, you have to abide by the laws of the universe, the universal code, a universal law. And you have to abide by the law of non-intervention. Therefore, no one in this entire universe, I don't care what dimension you come from, no one is able to override free will. Free will is the quintessential essence of consciousness. So basically, the Galactic Federation came in. They tried to kick all of the beings off of this planet so that no one was able to override humans' free will. What happened was that the reptilians were not pleased because this was originally their planet. And to be honest, it was. The humans came after the reptilians were here. And so then all of the reptilians said, we're not leaving our home planet, but we'll go underground, right? Like we won't intervene, quote unquote, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Turns out they started doing a lot of genetic manipulation with our DNA and our bloodline and, certain rituals and whatever. And then they were able to have the technology to shapeshift into humans and to control us from the inside. Now, you would think, wow, that's overriding our free will. Unfortunately, the reptilians are aware enough, they're still ignorant, but they're aware enough to understand the laws of the universe and actually manipulate them. So instead of saying, you have to do this, right, and we're overriding your free will, which they're not allowed to do, they say, hey, you know what? You could do this and it's not going to be a really good path for you, or you could do this and there's all this glimmer and glamour and glitz and money and whatever you want on this path, right? So they give you the choice, but they manipulate you to make a choice out of fear, right? A choice that triggers the fight or flight mechanism. So anyway, the reptilians have been here the entire time. And they have been manipulating us the entire time. And now, finally now, the GFL, once and for all, is stepping in once again. They're allowed to step in once again and say, all right, it's finally time to kick off the cabal, kick off the shadow government, kick off these reptilian shapeshifters, and finally leave the humans to expand and awaken, on their own, rather than constantly being manipulated. So, I mean, it's the long and the short of it is, that's kind of what I've channeled that's happened. And there's a lot more to the story, but that's kind of a part of the hidden human history of what's really been going on this planet.
Yeah, and he reiterated again and said that you said the off-worlders were waiting for peace before gunpowder was the most peaceful. And he said that wasn't answering the question on why they didn't join humans when Earth was at its most peaceful position before gunpowder. I mean, I don't know. It was a pretty violent place back then, too, with knives and tomahawks and arrows and whatnot. It was just kind of survival of the fittest going on, but that is what he reiterated with. And so could you answer that a little more in depth?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would just basically say exactly what you mentioned, which is there's always been war. I've gone back to the many times way before guns were ever even invented, right? And there was war, and there was corruption, and there was, the fight or flight. There was survival. It wasn't a completely peaceful land. And then there was colonialism, and there was mass genocide with the indigenous, and it was a really horrible place, and of course, like, that was the time of guns, but it was like, even indigenous tribe to indigenous tribe, there's always been this survival of the fittest. We've always had that reptilian brain. We've always had that mechanism within us as humans. That's how we've evolved as humans, just naturally, is through the survival of the fittest mentality. And that's just kind of who we are. So, I don't know if that really answers the question, but hopefully that gives him something else.
For sure. And then Craig was asking, are we not already a universe in our own right?
Yes, absolutely. So because we have this beautiful consciousness, the source energy within us, we are our own universe. Like, we are in the present moment existing as this singular reality, this projection. And as we are here, we're creating everything around us. So if you were to describe a universe as a conscious entity creating the world around you, that's exactly how I would describe being human, or really being any, being across this universe. Is, we all have that universal source, the universe within us. And if you think about us having water within us, and then with that water being able to tap into the collective consciousness or the intelligence of all water, we are separate and we are a part of it simultaneously. So I really do believe that we are our own universe as well.
And then Kat was wondering, is the Universal Police the Men in Black?
Interesting. Okay, very cool. It's really tough because, like, what do we even consider police? Like, how do we perceive police? Like, is it a security system? Is it for our benefit? Because some people perceive the police as, hey, they're the good guys. They're here to keep, peace and order and whatever. And some people perceive the police as very corrupt, right? So it's really difficult to say. But I will say that, yes, the Men in Black, like, what do we, people call them all different things. They're kind of like these humanoid type beings that do have these black hats. I haven't actually interacted with the Men in Black, well, just once in the physical, but in all my astral traveling, I haven't really encountered them, but I know a lot of other channelers and travelers, remote viewers, have encountered them, MIB. They're kind of, they don't really, from what I understand, I don't know too much about them, but from what I understand, they don't really keep the peace. If anything, they try and contain and trap and project and follow and almost harass, in an interdimensional cosmic way. Like, I know of some of these men in black, or these hat beings, as some people call them, who actually follow their astral cord back to their body and, implant and ship their body when they're not in it, So are they the police? I don't know how to, conceive them, but I don't think that they're very good. But I also haven't had any of my own personal experiences with them.
Yeah, they seem to be very dark and even working against people and the government, and they're always just wanting to hush people up. Like, don't talk about this anymore. We don't want this information spread, and just kind of trying to keep us in the dark, which I don't understand why. Is it for our own protection, or is it for what they want? So it's a really big question. What are they doing? Are they really the galactic police, or do they have a different agenda? Kat was wondering, do aliens want us confined to Earth realm?
I mean, it would be very, very broad to say all aliens, all interdimensional beings, want to confine us to the Earth realm. So it's so difficult to say that, right? Like it's so difficult to say, are all humans existing at the vibration of love? It's like impossible to say that. So there are certain interdimensional beings that I've experienced that want to confine us to this dimension, to this Earth realm, to the prison planet, or the paradigm of the karmic cycle, or whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. So in a way, yes, but there are far fewer beings who want to trap us here, and far more beings who want to expand us and move us forward and allow us to see our true power. And that's why the understanding of disclosure, and the concept of aliens and interdimensional beings has been so suppressed over the years, and especially religion. Like, I've been called the devil more times than I can count, and it's because religion tells us that believing in aliens is going against the belief of God. Therefore, that person is working with the devil, or these dark energies. And so for me, I believe that the one thing that will awaken consciousness almost instantaneously is the belief and the understanding that aliens are indeed real. And then even going further than that, and understanding that we are also aliens and interdimensional beings in our own right, and that right there, that knowledge right there takes us from this lowly, third dimensional fight or flight 9 to 5 species hurling on this rock in the middle of space, this random thing, to these incredibly powerful, magnificent, high vibrational, ambassadors that came through from all across the universe, right? So it's like, of course they don't want us to believe and know that aliens are out there, because then all of a sudden we're going to start waking up to the fact that we are, these powerful interdimensional beings. So no, not all aliens want to confine us. I would say it's a good 70-30 right now. 70% of interdimensional beings want to see us flourish. They want us to step into our power. And 30% of the beings out there don't really want to see us fully step into our power and understand our truth.
Yeah, and it's funny because, going to church as a kid and sharing my stories, when you're in a certain realm of church, they deny. But once I went to seminary while I was in high school, I brought up ghosts and I brought up aliens, and I was actually told ghosts do exist, and Jesus even said, "It is me, I'm not a ghost." And then going into the whole Catholic Church thing, like this new Pope, he is actually opening up different doors, and I really like this new guy. Like, instead of muting things, he's trying to bring light to things, and acknowledging that there are aliens and UFOs and there are ghosts, and re-establishing or retranslating the Bible and making it whole instead of having things taken out and added in. But going back to seminary, my dad was the one that was like, aliens this and UFOs that, and so he was kind of like the alien guy. My mom was the spiritual side of me, and so I was like, what about aliens? Like, do aliens exist? And the lady in seminary actually told me they do, and we're actually like the last ones left, and they're waiting for us to see what happens with us, and then after that, it's kind of when it all starts over again. So that was interesting to me, that instead of being denied and being looked down upon and people thinking I'm crazy, she's actually making me feel better, like I'm not crazy and this stuff is actually happening. But I'm excited, even though I'm not Catholic. This new pope, out of all the popes that I've ever known about, gives me hope as far as having acknowledgement of aliens and UFOs and ghosts and different things that they've always tried to mute. So I have a high expectation of what's going to happen. And then we have more questions in the chat room. It's so active tonight. It's awesome. I knew it was going to be a good show. But let's see. Jason was saying, if the plan is for us to end all wars, then we would have to battle something to be prepared for it. Maybe why we battle ourselves?
Oh, very cool. Like, that's a great, honestly, such a great comparison. Two things I want to mention on that. The battle that we all have, like seriously, all have within ourselves. I believe that one part of the battle, like you can call it so many different things, and I can talk about this all day, but one part of the battle is our old self. It's our reptilian self. It's our survival self. It's our fight or flight. It's our ego. It's our programming. It's our brainwashing. It's our projection. It's our ego, right? And so that's one part of ourselves. And then we have the pure consciousness within ourselves. And it really does feel like at all times there's this love-fear dynamic going on within us, So yes, there is a battle that's going on within us, absolutely. And then you're saying, well, if this is the species or the time to end all wars, isn't there a battle going on? Should we be preparing for something? And I just want to say, there is a battle going on. It's literally happening. It's going on right now. And the mind-baffling thing that I came to realize back in 2010, when I started really experiencing and waking up and astral traveling and really feeling out what's going on out there beyond this matrix, is, holy crap, there is an epic World War III that is going on all around this planet, and no one seems to be aware of it at all, right? Like, the battle that I'm talking about is a battle between light and dark. Like, it's been going on for decades. It's been going on since the dawning of the human race. The light has been battling the dark, and it's been building and building and building and getting more and more intense until we can actually transmute the dark altogether. Not win over it, but transmute it, to show it a different way. And so I'm just going to move on and elevate, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're still going to be confined and contained within this dimension, and the binary still exists, but not in the same way, not in a disharmonious way, but in a beautiful, harmonious way, like the yin yang. So anyway, yeah, absolutely, there's a battle going on, and sometimes I tap into it. I used to tap into it all the time, and I'd be out there with my light weapons. I'd be breaking down bases and opening vortexes and clearing out reptilian hordes, and man, you name it. I've been there, right? So now I kind of stay away from the battling, and there's a lot of other light workers. Thank you for all of you on this planet who are doing the conscious work and the battling out there in the astral realms. So I really appreciate those who are doing that. And I feel like my battle is here, on planet Earth with the knowledge, right? And just spreading as much knowledge as possible. So yeah, there is a battle going on, and a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of it.
And I do agree with you. A lot of us, even though we aren't aware of it, are light bringers, and we're here to love each other and raise each other up and help each other. The important thing is to remember to also help yourself. If you don't help yourself, as far as taking care of yourself, who's going to be there to help these other people? So you always got to keep that in mind. You got to take care of yourself, or you won't be here to take care of other people. That being said, Kat was asking, are we masters of the universe?
Honestly, I definitely think that we are powerful beings, but in our current state right now, are we masters of the universe? No, absolutely not. But do we have the capacity to be masters of the universe? Oh my goodness, absolutely, we do. And it's it just gives me chills. I channel 12th dimensional mantoid, beings. I channel these higher 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th dimensional beings who have been there. They've done it. They've seen it all. They've gone through the lessons. They've really experienced a lot. And I really truly believe that we can get there at such a rapid pace as human beings. within our evolution and our ability to unlock our DNA. But just like they say that we use barely 10% of our brain capacity, right, and the neural pathways that fire within our brain, right, we only use like less than 10%. We also, right, in retrospect, we also only use, this is scientific, we only use less than 10% of our DNA, the DNA in our body. And guess what? Scientists actually say that the other 90% DNA that we have is actually junk. It's just junk. Don't worry about it. Don't look over here, right? We've got this 90% junk DNA. You don't think that we have this DNA or these neural pathways for a reason, right? You don't think that we're meant to use these. And so we haven't put any funding or any research into the other 90% of our DNA. And why do you think that is, right? Why do you think we haven't put research into that, right? Yeah, at least publicly. And it's because I believe, it's not the truth, it's just what I believe. I believe the other 90% of our DNA is linked directly to our alien and interdimensional lineage and our hybrid systems. And I believe that when we start to unlock our third eye, but really what it is the pineal gland. When we start to unlock the pineal gland, we start to release a chemical compound called dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. We naturally release this in our brain. We have the capacity to do so. And what dimethyltryptamine allows us to do is it allows us to fire off other neural pathways, which basically mean that it's deprogramming our reality, and it's allowing us to experience this third dimension reality in a very different perception. It is not only deprogramming us, but it's also reprogramming us to see more than we have seen ever before. So we have these capacities and these abilities beyond comprehension, and we're just starting to tap into it. And any sort of research or anything else that's been put out there has really been cast aside and demonized, in the past.
Yeah, and Jason was just in there saying 90% junk DNA, like, pretty sure it's not junk, and that's what you were just saying it's not, but to the government and to the scientific world, they're really not paying attention to that. They're focusing on this smaller percentage. And I found it funny when I was looking into DNA, we actually have the same strands as bananas, that ish is bananas. But I mean, there's so many things that, fall together and go hand in hand, and it's all there for a reason, and to them it could seem like junk, but there could be a deeper meaning to it, a deeper reason for it, and they just don't put that acknowledgement or funding towards that other portion of it. They're focusing on these other things and trying to tear it apart and figure it out, and there's so much more to it than just what they're seeing, I believe.
Absolutely.
And Tripp was like, hold up, back up. She said off-worlders are not to have anything to do to affect us walking, talking apes, so why are they probing, changing DNA? Isn't that basically doing what the Galaxy Agreement says they're not to do?
This is a great question. This is a really awesome question. 100 million 50 whatever percent. I completely agree. It's like, okay, so I asked this question myself, right? So I was tapped into the Galactic Federation, talking to the Palladian Security Council, and I'm like, okay, cool. So you guys are really firm on your rules, right? Why have you been allowed to genetically manipulate not just our species? I mean, the majority of the species out there in the universe have been genetically manipulated in one way or another. And so here's basically the answer or the response that I got, which I don't even know what I think about this. And you whatever, you can take it or leave it or make your own kind of discernment behind it. Basically what they told me is that the natural evolution was going to get us to this point anyway. Basically, they said they're allowed to do this because they're just speeding up what would have already been organic. And so I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but that's just kind of what they told me. And the example that they kind of used was, think about an ant colony, okay? And then think about this ant colony being very resistant to rain. So every time it rains, the entire colony gets wiped out. But eventually, over millions of years or thousands of years or whatever, eventually over evolution, the ants actually become and more immune to rain. And so it could either take 1 million years for ants to develop that ability, or people like humans, right, or an evolved species can come through and say, oh, those poor ants, they could really use a leg up. They're going in this direction anyway, might as well speed up the process. And they'll take an ant and they'll inject it with some, new form of DNA or new strand or whatever that makes them immune to rain. And then all of a sudden they develop and they evolve that much faster. So that's how it was described to me as, but I still think it's a complete hypocrisy. I love the Galactic Federation. I love those beings, but sometimes, there's a little bit of contradiction for sure.
For sure. And on that note, we're going to go to our second break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party, you can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Sit back, relax, grab a drink, and listen closely. Spaced Out Radio continues through the weekend. From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Weekend with Tessa Nicole Thomas.
Wow, I'm all amped up for the third hour. That music intro always gets me amped up. But welcome back. It's so great to have you guys listening and sharing your questions and comments. And Elizabeth, welcome back to you. It's so great to have you here tonight. I think somebody's trying to break into a car out there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's been really fantastic. So I appreciate all of the comments and the high vibrations and the really intriguing conversations that we've been having.
And we were talking, we kind of want to get off this topic and move on to the Mandela Effect. So I'm going to ask these last questions that I have, and we have several. BTO was asking, so why are these higher dimensional beings still stuck within this universe? Sorry, but this is my third time and space inside this universe, and when I leave, I'm returning to the omniverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, why are these higher dimensional beings stuck within this universe? I mean, I guess like the short answer of that would be because they chose to be here, right? So we really have to just understand that every soul is on its own mission, and you have to take full responsibility of every choice and every decision. And if this is your third, fourth, 10th round around, you have to ask yourself why, right? And a lot of the times it's just like once you get back to source, you kind of get bored and you go back and you incarnate through the whole process in the matrix again. So, I mean, that's okay. I mean, it does get a little bit boring, right? It's like your 10th time around and you're like, okay, come on, get me off of this ride. But yeah, I mean, the short answer of it is why are the beings still stuck within this universe is because they chose to be there,
Okay, then our next question comes from Sharon, and she said, when we agree/contract to get abducted, we agree with all that comes with being abducted, probing, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of abduction experiences that aren't exactly very positive, but I do just want to note on a positive note with abductions, which is when we get abducted, we tend to unlock our DNA and have a much higher vibration and a much clearer connection to source and the universe within us, right? So even if your abduction was quite dark, just like mine was at the age of 18, we wake up beyond the abduction and we start understanding the whole universal flow and mechanism of everything. So everything that happens to you, good, bad, and ugly, you contracted, you signed up for, you agreed to, and nothing can be done without your free will and contracts. So yes, all of the dark stuff, including a lot of the suffering, a lot of the abuse, a lot of the stuff that has happened in past lifetimes, all of that was also predestined, contracted by you as well.
Okay, and then Craig was asking, the reason we only use 10% of our brains is because of emotional attachment to our perceptions and experience. So to unlock our full brain, we release those attachments, listen, and try to understand. So how do we unlock our physical DNA? Stop eating, and then he says, laugh out loud.
Cool. Oh, very cool. Well, you're so bang on. So basically what ties us here to the third dimension is the projection, the ego, the fear, the attachment, the memories, the trauma, all of that stuff that create our perception. That is what grounds us. That's what attaches us to this third dimension reality. So if you really want to break through the matrix, you get away from the binary system. You get away from the confinement of the third dimension altogether. You stop reacting to things and you start to come from place in an objective and neutral standpoint. But I will warn all of you that, in the past, I have been very objective. I have been very neutral. And I actually kind of for 2 years, I tried to get rid of my ego, not realizing that if we didn't have an ego, if we didn't have a perception, then we wouldn't be human, right? Our ego is just our understanding of this reality through our human brain, right? So, I mean, we have to have an ego in order to live. And so in trying to squash my ego and not reacting and not having an attachment and not having, emotion really at all, I became a robot. And all of my relationships, in my life suffered. The dynamic with school or job or whatever it was that I was going through suffered, right? Because I was ungrounded and I was just completely objectively aware of everything, and I wasn't really choosing to take part in one thing or another. So I didn't really play the game of this binary matrix reality, and I suffered because of it. So I do want to say it's great to swing on one end of the spectrum and the other, of the super, super physical and then the super, super non-physical. But the only way to really exist and thrive and be in abundance is to fully embrace both sides simultaneously.
And then he reiterated with, what's the hardest thing to let go of on the path to enlightenment, non-mystical?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I would honestly say that what is the hardest thing to let go of is very dependent on each person's reality, right? So based on what lesson you're learning in that lifetime, there's going to be different challenges for every single person. And if there are 2,000 lessons, I mean, that's a lot of things that are going to be very hard to let go of for a lot of people. And I know that one of the really difficult concepts, which is, Tessa, you've experienced this in your own life, is death. And it's grief and it's grieving. And I would say one of the toughest lessons as a human, in this third dimension reality to understand is grief, is understanding that death doesn't really exist and that everything is still in flow and there is no end and there really is no beginning and it's all just oneness and it's all just here and it's just now and there is no separation or division and there is really death is an illusion, and the more you understand that, the less and less you actually have to react to the loss of something or someone, because you understand that it's still just there, existence, consciousness that just kind of flows forward, right? So that's kind of my understanding of kind of movement and consciousness and flow and death and rebirth and what people have difficulties learning, basically.
Yeah, death is just the beginning. It's not the end.
Yep.
Craig said, I've noticed my vibration drops when I get into a relationship / entanglement. What can I do about that?
Absolutely. So, the number one thing that I find with people and relationships, it doesn't mean that relationships are negative or bad, but relationships can be very distracting. So here you go. Not only are you dealing with your own ego and your own perception and your own projection and your own reaction and emotions, but you're dealing with someone else's ego, perception, reaction, and attachments and all of that, right? So it's really difficult. It can be very distracting. So the other thing, too, is you have to ask yourself, if you continue to attract the same type of partner over and over again, then you have to really look at why. Why do you continue to attract the same partner over and over again? What does that mean about you, right? What aren't you changing about yourself? So partnerships and relationships can be very high vibrational, very elevating, very exciting, in so many different ways, but you have to attract a partner at the right vibrational level. So you are the mirror reflection of any partner, any relationship that you bring in. So whatever triggers you about that person, whatever creates a low vibration within your system around that partner, then you have to ask yourself, well, how am I projecting that into the partner, and how is that coming back and affecting me or frustrating or triggering me? How does that projection affect me? So taking the responsibility of who you're attracting in your life and realizing that you can actually, step up the standard and attract someone who is more at your vibrational level, or just simply increase your vibration to attract higher vibrational people.
Awesome. And we actually got to the end of our questions. So, moving right along to the Mandela Effect. What are your thoughts and theories about this?
Okay, so I love the Mandela Effect. I am just so enamored, and I'm definitely still a student when it comes down to this. This is what I believe the Mandela Effect is, and I'll just kind of put it out there. I believe that there are an infinite amount of parallel realities simultaneously existing in this present moment. So in this moment, you have an infinite number of choices in front of you. You could pick up your water bottle, you could walk to the fridge, you could go to the bathroom, you could step outside, you could drop your pen, you could light some sage, you could fall off your chair. There's just an infinite amount of possible realities right now in this moment. And so what I believe the Mandela Effect is, this is what I've channeled, especially from the Galactic Federation. Once again, take it or leave it. It's pretty intense. But back in 2012, I got warned, and I was having a lot of very apocalyptic visions and apocalyptic dreams while simultaneously having these beautiful, blissful, high vibrational, conscious visions and dreams about the future and what the possibilities were. So I was so confused for 3 or 4 years. I'm like, why am I being shown, war and collapse and stock market crashes and volcanoes and the sea level rising and all of the nuclear warfare? Why am I seeing all of that and then simultaneously seeing this beautiful harmony and this collapse of religion and this increase in vibration and this collective consciousness? Why am I seeing two very different parallel realities? I didn't really call it parallel realities back then, but I didn't know why I was seeing two different outcomes. And so, I went to this Galactic Federation meeting, and the meeting happened to be, in an astral projection inside the moon, which I don't know if you knew this, but I've experienced the moon as hollow, and it's kind of just more of one giant satellite than a planet or whatever they call it, a rock, right? Anyway, so this meeting was inside the moon, and they basically told us, they said, this is your time as teachers to step up and to start remembering who you are, to start planting the seeds within the planet of helping others remember who they are. And the reason why is because our reality is about to be destroyed. I'm like, what? Our reality is about to be destroyed? What do you mean? And so they basically progressed and told us that there was a device, which now I understand, which I believe, is CERN and the Hadron Collider. I believe that CERN basically collided some particles, opened up a black hole, and completely collapsed reality as we knew it back in 2012, which is quite uncanny because a lot of people at that time thought that our reality was going to collapse and that there was going to be, the death and destruction of the entire planet. And turns out what I believe, what I've channeled is that boom, there actually was a collapse of this reality as we knew it. And after 2012, that's when everything started to get a little bit weird. And all of a sudden, there's all these glitches in the matrix. And one of the biggest glitches, and I want to call it a symptom from the collapse of our reality back in 2012, a symptom of this is half of us remembering one thing, where the other half of us remember another thing. And what we're remembering is one half of us is glitching within this matrix, and we're remembering that old parallel reality and what existed within that old parallel reality. And now turns out we have hopped into this, the next parallel reality that was closest to our last reality. So it feels the same, but it also feels different. Like, even the thing like the sunlight is different in this reality than it was in the last one. Like in the old reality before 2012, I noticed that the sunlight was very almost like yellowish. It was very like a golden, almost even an orangey kind of rays from the sun. Nowadays, it's much more bright, it's much more light, it's much more almost like a washed out yellow. Yeah. And so anyway, so that's just one example, but then you have Luke, I am your father, and life is like a box of chocolates, and mirror, mirror on the wall, and Berenstein Bears versus Berenstein Bears. Like you've got all of these very much so pop culture examples. And a lot of people are like, well, why has it only been pop culture that's been changed? And my response back is, it hasn't only been pop culture that has been changed. People's lives have been changed from one parallel reality to another, and we're just not acknowledging it. And to the point where I've had clients who basically tell me, Elizabeth, I had children. And I says, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, I know I had 3 children. I had a husband. I had 3 children. And then all of a sudden I woke up, my children are gone, and I'm divorced from my husband. And
she's just got freaking chills
like
all throughout my body. That's insane.
Right? This is a much more rare case, okay? But this has happened. And so she's like, and this client of mine is like, I don't have children in this lifetime. I never had children in this lifetime, and I don't understand why I know that I had children. And likewise, there are people after 2012, after the old reality collapse, who are like, I have children now and I never had children before. And there's all these other different kind of glitches in the matrix. So I want to take this one step forward, and this is going to kind of add a whole new element to it. Okay. This is information that you will most likely not find online, because once again, this is like direct channeling right from the GFL. And so, basically back in 2016, I was like kind of just casually channeling things and whatever. In 2016, I got contacted by a Palladian being, and he says, Elizabeth, we need to take you on our ship, and we need to give you some information that you need to relay to humanity. And this is when I started to be more of a public person to get myself out there. So I went up to their ship, and I went to this boardroom type of thing, and this big oval table, and there's about, maybe 10, 11 other Palladian beings sitting at this table, and they told me that they're part of the Security Council. Super cool, whatever. So that's great. And so they said, look at this hologram projection. They said, what do you see? And I'm taking a look at this projection, and I see 2 planets. I see 2 Earths. And I'm taking a look, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I thought we just had one Earth. I thought we just existed on one planet. And they said, well, actually, since 2012, we hopped into another parallel dimension, a parallel reality. And I said, yeah, okay, cool. I knew that much. And they said, well, actually, because of what happened in 2012, there was a polarization that happened at that time. And because there was just enough people awakening and expanding and holding a higher vibrational frequency, our planet, our one reality, did not just split into the next parallel reality. We actually split into 2 different parallel realities based on the vibrational polarization of our reality. Okay, so this is basically what I learned, was that there's 2 parallel Earths that are simultaneously existing right now. One of the Earths is a low vibrational frequency. It's the 3rd dimension. And the other Earth, right, is a high vibrational frequency. It's the 5th dimension. And so these two dimensions, these parallel realities, are simultaneously existing right now at this time. And we as human beings are constantly flipping back and forth between one reality and another. And this is where things get really kind of weird, like really weird and like really kind of glitchy and kind of messed up. And so I'll give you an example. And this is really cool. So about a year ago, maybe less than that, a client of mine reached out to me and she says, Elizabeth, I am freaked out. And I'm like, okay, give me what's going on? Give me the dirty deeds. And so she's like, so last night, my husband, who's a very angry man, he's a very, negative person, right? She's like, my husband last night, him and I, we sat down and we just had this incredible conversation. And all of a sudden we're talking about past traumas and our emotions, and we're talking about spirituality and spirit guides and aliens. We're talking about everything. And she's like, I was so impressed and so shocked that we were talking about this. And I was just something that I would never hear from him. She's like, and that was so cool. And I was so excited because here he is waking up. And then she says, and then the very next morning, we're on our way, we're driving to the grocery store, and she turns to him and says, thank you so much for the conversation that we had last night. I feel so good about our relationship, and I'm so relieved we talked about everything. And he looks at her and he says, what do you mean? What conversation we had last night? I don't remember a conversation that we had last night. We watched a movie or in bed or whatever, right? And she's like, we had a full conversation for like 3 hours. And he's like, no, we didn't. We never had that conversation at all. And so she calls me up and she's like, am I going crazy? Why doesn't my husband remember the conversation that we very clearly had? They weren't drinking. They weren't on drugs. There was nothing going on. They were completely sober. And less than 24 hours later, they're both remembering different things. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Let me channel it. So I tap in and I channel it. And the information that came through was, this is so cool. The night before, she raised her vibration to be in the fifth dimension, to be in this high vibrational frequency. And because she rose her vibration and she was firm and she just kind of stood there in that vibration, she was able to raise his vibration by doing so. And so he raised his vibration. All of a sudden, they are having this conversation in a new vibration, in a parallel dimension. And the dimension would be the fifth dimension, the fifth vibrational frequency. So they had this beautiful conversation in one of the parallel Earths that's simultaneously existing. And then the very next day, they go to bed. He shifts his vibration back into the third dimension. She remains in the fifth dimension. The very next day, in the third dimension, that conversation never happened at all. In the fifth dimension, it happened. Therefore, she remembered the conversation they had in the fifth dimension. He did not remember it at all because he shifted into another parallel dimension, another frequency. So think about the third and the fifth dimension simultaneously existing within the Mandela Effect. Think about it as radio stations, right? You literally cannot have two different radio frequencies simultaneously coexisting on the same station. It's impossible. And the laws of physics actually denote that two vibrations of different frequencies cannot coexist in the same space. It's just physically impossible. Therefore, you've got these weird glitches and these situations of the wife raising her vibration, the husband lowering his vibration, and them kind of hitting and missing each other. And I don't know about any of you, but I'll walk around town and I will literally be invisible to half the people out there. And they don't even notice me. They don't even see me because I'm literally not on their plane of existence. I'm not on their radio frequency, which is so cool. So anyways, that's kind of my overview and explanation of the Mandela Effect and parallel realities and shifting. And God, there's so much to talk about with this, but that's how I perceive it. That's what I've channeled. Take it or leave it. What do you think, Tessa? What's your take on the Mandela Effect?
Well, I do agree it all started with CERN, and people were like, oh, CERN's been here forever. They have, but then they discovered this, what they call God particle, and they decided, well, let's do these little collisions and see what happens. And you think you contain this collision within, these little metal, tubes or whatnot? Like, there's no way that you can contain such a massive thing, really. It may seem like it's contained, but it's really causing these flashes, and they do it repeatedly over and over again. And you do see these different changes, like you were saying with the sun. It used to be, not duller, but it wasn't so bright. Now it just seems overwhelmingly bright and so light, and it's just white and washed out, instead of before being that kind of light yellow glow and with the golden colors and the orange colors and whatnot, which I see at sunset, but it's not, throughout the day. And then, you see changes within people around you. I'm certain my husband is other dimensional Vern, because we used to go back and forth with Luke, I am your father, and different things like that. And he's like, now he's saying, no, it was never that. It was this. And I'm like, no, it wasn't other dimensional Vern. And I kind of laugh about it because it is funny, but at the same time, it's kind of scary. And little things have changed, and you see it, like with Forrest Gump, like you were saying, the Bernstein Bears. And my sister, she was so into those books, and she's like, this is not right. Curious George, the guy holding, he used to have that turkey leg or whatever in his hand. Now it's not there. Certain things are there, and now they're missing, or they've changed. And sometimes, like there was this one example where this woman went over to her mom's house and she found this National Geographic, and it had JFK's car in it and the whole shooting and everything that went on. And she's looking at it, and they had talked about this before, how it had changed. And she's like, my mom has this book, and it actually is the way that we talked about it. And he's like, okay, take pictures of it, whatever, and then bring it home and we'll look at it together. And she did. And once she brought it over to the house, it had changed from her mom's house to their house. And they're like, wow, how did this even happen? It was this way a minute ago. Now it's totally different. Instead of being, front seat and a back seat, now it's like 3 seats. And now there's more people in the car. And now they're saying Jackie did it. And, all kinds of different crazy things. And it just makes you wonder what's going on. And is it too, and they say it's very small little changes. Eye color change, hair color change. And it could be really big changes, like you were saying, family members missing or family members added. And it's just so strange, and it really freaks me out. And I'm still getting goosebumps over the lady that was like, now my kids are gone, and they're saying I never had kids. And I'm wondering, could she go to the doctor and get a physical and show the proof that she did actually have kids because she remembers it this way?
No. See, this is the thing, right? In this parallel dimension, in this reality, she never had kids at all. Therefore, she could go to the doctor all she wanted, but the test would never show that she had kids. You know what I mean? It's not like going back in time and something is missing. It's a timeline where it was never there to begin with, right? So the proof would never be there. That's the crazy thing about it.
Well, she's still the same, but her world around her is different, so I'm wondering if that would show up. So that would be kind of some interesting evidence of this did actually happen when people are denying it, and everybody around her is like, what are you talking about? I think you need to go see the psychologist or whatever, because she did have kids, but everybody else remembers it differently.
Yes.
And I could not imagine that, waking up without my kids being there. Like, that would be the end of my world as I know it. And where do you go from there? I guess sleep in a little bit and, kind of enjoy your free time. But at the same time, that's your world. Once you have kids, that's your world. And I couldn't imagine going from there. It's kind of like a death in a sense, but it's just alternations of reality. And I'm wondering, could it happen so many more times because they do keep doing this and trying to recreate this Big Bang or whatever? And
so it's it's really powerful and really beautiful in understanding this concept and getting into it, is understanding that this is so wild, right? But it comes back to the theory that I have, right, through channeling, that we are very powerful. And what I believe we can do with our power and with our ability in being our own universe and being our own God and projecting our reality and creating our reality in every conscious moment, I believe that we are always hopping in and out of parallel realities in every single moment. So in understanding the Mandela Effect really just opened up the fact that, whoa, parallel realities do indeed exist. And yes, as a collective on this entire planet, one entire planetary reality collapsed and we hopped into two simultaneous ones. But at an individual level, we can hop into a variety of simultaneous and parallel realities in every single moment. So, here's how I started playing around with parallel realities, right? It was, of course, the Mandela Effect opened me up to, holy shit, like this exists, right? This is possible. And then I started having my own Mandela Effect experiences happen to me, and I call them glitches in the matrix. So I'll explain one of them, and then I'll explain where I'm at now. So about 3 years ago, I was like just open. It was 2016. I was like opening up to the Mandela Effect, opening up to everything that's going on, opening up to CERN and what's going on there, and really cool stuff. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, like I really want to experience this. I want to experience this glitch. So I was kind of playing around with it, really opening up. And in my condo, in the underground garage, my car was parked, and then my neighbor's car, and you go to your car every day, so you like see your neighbor's car all the time. And so the 1 week, all of a sudden, their kind of dark sedan type of old car was changed for this brilliant, bright, electric blue SUV, right? And it was some sort of like Toyota SUV or whatever. And so, of course, I recognize it, the change because of the bright blue color. I'm like, oh, I love this blue. That's awesome. Definitely take note of it. Get into my car, drive away, whatever. So that was cool, right? Nothing to note there. Then it was about 3 or 4 days later where I go back into my car and I'm walking by their car, and instead of it being a Toyota, whatever it was, RAV4 crossover, right? It was instead a electric bright blue Nissan crossover. So immediately I'm like, Mandela Effect, right? But then I'm like, okay, don't jump to conclusions, like check it out, right? Like they could have very easily not enjoyed their Toyota and decided to go with the Nissan instead, right? So a couple days later, I crossed paths with them in the underground garage, and I had to ask them, I'm like, hey, nudge, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm just looking, in the market for a new car. I noticed that you just bought one, right? They're like, oh yeah, we love it. And I'm like, did you by chance, or were you by chance, looking at the Toyota version of the crossover, right? They're like, actually, it's so funny that you mention it. We were looking at the Toyota version. And I'm like, let me guess, you really loved it too because of the electric blue color, because it was the exact same color. Both cars had the exact same electric blue color, but it was a different make, right? And so like, what? That's so weird. Like, how did you know? I'm like, I love the color. I'm like looking in the same thing, right? Anyway, so I'm like, so just confirm for me, you never actually bought the Toyota crossover. They're like, nope, that was our second option, but we didn't decide to go there. Instead, we decided the Nissan. It was super close, 50-50, but we chose the Nissan at the end of the day. So here we go. I was hopping into one parallel reality for one whole week where they actually chose the Toyota version of the car, right? The crossover that was underground. I took note of it. It was very clearly in my mind. A week later, boom, it changed over to the Nissan. They tell me that in their reality, they never bought the Toyota at all, and they didn't remember buying it. And of course, that was me hopping from one dimension to another, from one parallel reality to another. So that's really cool. That was like one of my first experiences with the glitch in the Matrix. And then it progressed, and there was all these kind of weird things that happened. So right now, at this point in time, 3 years later, this is where I'm at. This is so cool. So like I work from home. I do like channeled sessions like internationally. If you guys really love what I do and what I talk about, definitely recommend that you check out some of my stuff and content and videos and social media or whatever. Anyway, so I'll be sitting at my desk at home. This is so wild. And all of a sudden, I will see myself get up out of my chair and walk over to the fridge and grab a drink and come back and sit down. And I'll be like literally just sitting here. Or I'll see myself get up, peer out the window, walk over to the bathroom, come back here, right? So here I am in the present moment. I'm simultaneously tapping into at least 2 or 3 different parallel realities in a single moment when I'm really tapped in. It doesn't happen all the time. And I will literally see myself doing different things. And then I can choose, oh, do I want to go do that? Oh, I am kind of thirsty, oh, do I need to go to the bathroom? Oh yeah, let's go do that. So now I'm like tapping in, I'm visually seeing myself in all of these different options of, oh, if I made that choice, this is where I would go, right? So that's when you really start to harness the full potential of this matrix reality. That's actually when you start to break through the matrix, is to kind of see things before they happen or make choices, when understanding all of the choices. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, intriguing, and interesting, and especially for you to be able to see that, to see different yous doing different things. And for a second I was wondering, is this an out-of-body experience that you were having, and you're seeing these different things from this perspective, or is it like you were saying, like different dimensional yous or whatnot doing different things, and you can choose the outcome that you want?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's definitely more of the parallel realities. Like I've had out-of-body experiences, astral projecting, remote viewing for a really long time now, like 10 years at least. Like I've been traveling around the room or like going to Peru just because I could, So I know what an out-of-body experience feels like. This is not an out-of-body experience. This is literally me just visually seeing a parallel reality play out in front of my eyes because I'm tapped into that. And like, for example, the one time I was on the freeway and this car cut in front of me. And in that moment, I literally saw myself or this guy hitting my front bumper. And I had this awful car crash. So I literally saw this whole parallel reality play out in front of me. And yet there I was still driving the car, barely almost hit, right? So it's just like things like that I don't necessarily am always open to, but it's really wild to kind of step through all of those different timelines or be visually aware of what could potentially happen depending on what decisions. And then you really, truly become the ultimate master of your reality.
And it's interesting, and I believe it's named Mandela Effect because that's where it all began. I remember as a child watching his funeral procession and all of these people coming out, and it was a beautiful gathering as far as, these people really loved him and they're mourning his loss and really, really sad about it. And then all of a sudden, flash forward, there he is, president of Africa, this certain portion of Africa. So I believe that's where it all began. Do you remember who exactly pinpointed this happening? Who realized that this was happening and shared it with all of us?
No, I don't know who that person was.
Me neither, but I am curious to see who it was, and I'm going to have to check that out. Who found it? So Trip was saying, okay, so at first Kat was saying, sorry, because there's like 3 questions in a row. She said, hey, a lot of people awoke in 2012, which is true, basically, right?
Yeah.
And then Trip was like, oh, for F's sake, CERN has been running for years, and we discussed that. But then they realized this God particle, and they started playing around with it, and that's when everything started going chaotic. And he is asking after that, which CERN, U.S. or European CERN?
What I've channeled is definitely the European Hadron Collider. I believe I know it was funded by China, but I think it's in Sweden or Switzerland or something. But yeah, absolutely. I know CERN has been running for years, but they really, with their quantum computing, they really did open up something that was quite dark. And 2012, a lot of people woke up because that's when we hopped into a higher vibrational plane. And we were literally able to make a choice of, do you want to be awakened and shift your vibration, or do you want to continue to be trapped in the matrix, right, in the third dimension? So that's kind of when we started to take our power back, in a sense. That's when our old prison system collapsed. And to be honest, it was like the best thing that could happen to us. So I believe, once again, there is really no dark. There is really no light. Everything is happening exactly the way it needs to be. It's all divine timing, and the darkness usually leads us to light every single time. Such is the binary system of this matrix reality.
So then Jason was asking, have you ever remote viewed anything historic?
I've remote viewed a lot of things that have never been shown in history books or talked about in history books because it would literally rewrite history. So yeah, I've seen many different historic things. Oh man, I mean, the most recent thing that I remote viewed is if anyone watches The Leak Project or Rex Bear on YouTube. I was doing an interview with him, and I remote viewed, I astral traveled over to Antarctica, and I was really curious. Like, honestly, this is my own curiosity. I'm like, hey Rex, like, can we do this like live on the air? Like, this would be cool. And so basically I floated over to Antarctica. And there's a lot of like government conspiracies and activity and aliens and stuff going on there. So I really wanted to see what it was all about. And I ended up going underground, like under the ice, and I went into these underground caverns and caves, but it wasn't caves. It was like an underground base down there. Like, it was very well made. And it was like, I was so viscerally there that I could feel and taste and sense the dampness and the cold chill of the hallways of that underground base in Antarctica. And basically it was so awful. Like, I floated, like I zipped around that place, and I saw all of these poor souls, these poor humans being tested on like animals, and basically what I received of what they were doing in Antarctica and why there's like all these sanctions and no-fly zones, and and presidents have been there, is because they are attempting to create what I've understood as super soldiers, right? So they're actually, the governments are working with certain interdimensional beings in one of the bases in Antarctica, and they're basically trying to create these superhuman soldiers, and they're just really doing a lot of like messed up practices and experiments on these humans there. So anyway, I know that was totally off topic, and we're talking about the Mandela Effect, but that's kind of the last time I remote viewed, and that was like a couple months ago. But that whole interview and the channeling is on the Leak Project or my channel on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Awesome. Kat was wondering, does our mind exist outside of time? And she says it sure seems like it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So time is a really funny concept. I believe it's simultaneous. And so we only exist within time when we perceive it, right? If we perceive it as such. If you have a clock in front of you, you are consciously observing time. Therefore, you are moving energetically and physically at the pace of the time that you're perceiving. It all comes down to we create our own reality. If we are not perceiving time, time therefore does not exist because we are not consciously becoming aware of it. So I truly believe that time is only a construct of this linear reality, and we can expand ourselves beyond the concept of time altogether. And so we can slow down time by being more in the present moment, or we could speed up time by being away from the present moment. It's however you want to perceive time is plausible, So, I mean, it's something like deja vu. Having deja vu moments is the experience. It is the proof of simultaneous time. We are all tapping into future events. We're forgetting about the fact that we saw that future event, and then we walk through that future event, and boom, there you have it. It's deja vu, right? So we all experience simultaneous time all the time. We just kind of don't always embody that experience and like step into that or empower ourselves.
And Kat was talking about, you were talking about super soldiers, and she said about the super soldiers kind of makes sense to use Antarctica because there's no laws.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
And then, let's see. And then she also said, maybe the Mandela Effect was invoked, which is interesting, an interesting thought.
So, I just want to mention something on the Mandela Effect being invoked. Like, I just want to mention that a lot of people are like, oh, this was such a horrible event, it collapsed or destroyed our reality. don't you think it would have been stopped by some of the beings who are here to keep the peace? And I'm like, wow, good question. Why wouldn't it have been stopped? And then when I checked in and I said, okay, guys, why didn't you stop this horrendous event that happened that actually collapsed our reality? And they kind of chuckled and they're like, Elizabeth, you have to understand that everything is exactly the way it needed to be and that reality needed to collapse, right? So was it invoked? Not really, but was it planned and was it known about for a very long time? Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Joe Monk was saying, the Mandela Effect is proof that time travelers came back and screwed with our timeline. And that's a different perspective. It's pretty interesting. But I'm convinced it was CERN. And then Tripp was wondering, which is worse, CERN or HARP?
At the end of the day, they're all run by the same individuals, right? Like which is worse, the red or the blue, the right or the left? It's like, don't even feed into the binary. Don't even get caught up in what organization or what. It's all just controlled by the same entities, the same beings, who are thankfully being kicked off of this planet at this time. So, and that's why we have like a lot of the stuff coming out about the sex rings and the pedophilia and things like that, because they're all a part of the shadow government. They're a part of the cabal, and so they're all kind of being exposed and kicked off, and there's a lot of movement happening. And it's a very exciting time on this planet.
It really is very interesting and intriguing, and there is a lot of deja vu, and every time I get deja vu, I kind of brace myself, okay, what's going to happen next? And I'm trying to think back, what did happen next, and expecting the worst, and generally, it doesn't happen worse, it's generally a better outcome, but, deja vu just happening, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen next? And you're kind of bracing yourself and waiting for whatever's going to happen. But yeah, it's so weird, especially when, your husband, he's still your husband, but not quite your husband. He's got this different perspective than you do. And it's like, hey, we used to talk about this stuff all the time. And now you're on this page and I'm on this page. Right. Who are you and what did you do with my husband?
I just want to say, Tessa, that, I do a lot of basically coaching and helping people understanding the third and the fifth and the different dimensions and the different places that a relationship can go. And I just want to say that most likely he hasn't shifted yet, which there's always a possibility that he can shift overnight tomorrow. He can be at that vibration, right? So there's a possibility, most likely he hasn't shifted yet because you are supporting him in the third dimension, i.e. you are actually enabling him to be in the third dimension because you lower yourself around him because you're very empathic and you basically match his energy. So I will let you know that time and time again, this is a proven method that if you were to just maintain a high vibrational frequency and say, cool, be triggered, be frustrated, be grumpy, be negative, whatever it may be, right? Like be that self. I'm just going to be over here. Eventually, the more you maintain that high vibration, the easier it's going to be for him to match you rather than you matching him and lowering yourself. And usually, this is what happens with the women because they're so empathic. And so they flip-flop. Okay, well, when I'm alone, I'm in the fifth dimension, I'm loving life. And then when my husband comes home, I feel like tired and I have to like whatever and and all of these things. And because you're going from high to low, fifth to third, it's exhausting. All of a sudden your body starts breaking down, gives you aches and pains. You start just getting unmotivated and tired all the time and sick, and it's because you're flip-flopping your energy all the time and you're moving so much of your energy in every single moment. So if you were to say, what excites me in every moment? What will allow me to be at a high vibrational place in every single moment? Is it appreciation? Is it love? Is it connection? And maintaining that vibration is going to shift the entire dynamic. And all of a sudden, you're going to see that your husband meets you over on the other side. And I can guarantee that as long as you stick with your high vibrational frequency all the time, you will see everything around you and everyone around you shift without you having to lift a finger or say a word. All you have to do is just totally be in your own little reality, and you can raise the vibration of everyone else around you without doing or saying anything. And it's a really cool thing to experience.
Yeah, and that's super interesting that you said that about the, short temper and stuff because, before most patient person in the world, and you're like, man, how come you're not getting upset by this? And then all of a sudden, shortest temper ever, and you're like, okay. And I'm just attributing it to the high blood pressure and the new medications and whatnot. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, that totally makes sense. And one of my questions is, people are accumulating it to, well, it's just a mass thing of bad memories. People are remembering things wrong. I don't think so. So the people that are still here, like you and I, are we still here because we do have that kind of higher vibration and we do grasp things more than these other people around us that are kind of switching in and out?
Right. Well, what I've channeled is that 2020 is meant to be the year. Like, it's a very, very prophesized year. Like, I don't know who else has prophesized it, but whatever when I channel things, like, they basically, like, I get informed by the GFLs and say, okay, this is like a really significant time. This is a really important year. And I believe that teachers is what I call them. And most of the people watching this are teachers, right? People are waking up to this information before everyone else because we are meant to be the seed planters. We are meant to be the teachers. We are meant to be the ones to help and raise and shrug along, everyone else who has taken some time in the third dimension. And I find that people have to get as low and as rock bottom as humanly possible to finally say, I'm done with the fear, I'm done with the low vibration, and I'm ready to move on. But it's got to be their conscious decision to do so, and they've got to hit rock bottom. They've got to experience the dark before they can experience the light and understand that there is a different way to live and a different way to perceive. So between 2016 and 2018, a lot of people were shifting, a lot of people were letting stuff go, a lot of people were dealing with emotions, a lot of people were hermiting, myself included. And then 2019 is like this year of, okay, like, let's go. What are we doing? What's the next step? How can I help? Right. And all of these teachers are coming out of the woodworks, not even understanding that they're teachers, like, spiritually. And everyone is gearing up for 2020. 2020 is the year where, this is what I've channeled, the third dimension the third dimension reality, the parallel reality that's simultaneously existing, is meant to collapse, and we are meant to hop into the fifth dimension and meant to ascend, and move forward in a beautiful, harmonious way after 2020. And that's supposed to be the majority of the humans on this planet. So a lot of people are being challenged to choose right now. In every single moment, everyone has a choice. You have a choice of love or fear. Are you going to go into the cupboard and reach for vodka, or are you going to reach for kombucha? Right? It's like your choice. Like, what do you choose to do? What vibration do you choose to exist and live in? And we have that choice, and it's really important that we all wake up to that choice right now so we can hop into the fifth dimension and really shift with everyone. So, yeah.
And Trip, about 5 minutes ago, was like, so much for the galaxy agreement again. How many times we got to go through this? But yeah, it's just very interesting and intriguing. And I've had this discussion on different shows and with different people. And it's amazing how they're just like set in stone. No, it's always been like this. And I'm like, no way, dude. I remember it this way. My sister does. Like, we all got this different thing going on. And you're kind of on a different planet right now, although we're on the same planet. And that's interesting. You were talking earlier about the second Earth thing going on. And they actually did find another planet recently that was like our planet. Very interesting and intriguing. And different things just keep coming up, like Fruit Loops and just the different spelling and, Ford. It's always been this way, but people remember it being a different way. And so many different things that keep popping up. So I do watch those videos, and I don't take everything as, truth, but if I remember it that way, I do agree.
Right.
If not, I'm like, okay, how come I don't remember it that way? But it's very interesting, and it does make you scratch your head, like, how is this happening? And then you look back at CERN and this trying to recreate the Big Bang, and why would you even want to mess with that? Like, that would scare the holy shnikes out of me, and I don't know. I wouldn't want to play around with that. That's just like, I might blow my head off trying to mess around with this stuff. But, we're coming up on our last 2 minutes. Is there anything else about the Mandela Effect that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share?
I think I have so much content out there, across all of my socials, but I definitely just want to, relate, if you were to take anything away from this interview and this conversation, it would be, you are the one and only creator of your own reality. Start taking responsibility over everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly in your life. And start to make a choice. You are the only one to make that conscious choice of what reality, what dimension, what energy, what vibration you want to live in. And if you are interested in the stuff that I'm talking about and you resonate with, the information that I've channeled, definitely check out my website, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, live videos, you name it. I talk about a little bit of everything, and it's just Elizabeth April. So I just want to say thank you all for everyone who is tuning in and commenting and such great questions, and really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been a very nice session, and hearing all of the input and questions and different perspectives. And that's what I love about it, because I'm constantly learning from other people, and that's what I like, is to broaden my horizons and expand my knowledge and, become a greater person from individuals around me. And to me, it is like a family here. I like to call it SOR Asylum because we're all a little crazy here. But yeah, it was so great having you on the show tonight, and I'm so glad you were able to join us, and I'd really love to have you back again. There's a couple things that we didn't get to talk about that I'd definitely like to talk about. You
Hello?
Can't hear me? That is weird. Are you still there, April? Can you hear me now? Maybe we stepped into another Mandela Effect. Elizabeth, are you there? Can you hear me? So strange. Well, I'm glad it waited till the end of the show to do that. But Elizabeth, I want to thank you so much for being my guest tonight. It was so wonderful having you on the show this evening. Can you hear me? So weird. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else in the universe you're listening tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend on Spaced Out Radio, which you can find at spacedoutradio.com. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we own the night. You guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you back here next weekend. Make sure you don't work too hard and take care of my yous.
Ships into the rocks, and from the cliffs they watch us sink
If
down.
you guys would like to join us for the Skype after party, just look for me on Skype under Tessa Thomas Peterson, Tessa Thomas Peterson, or you can call in 970-335-9596. Just make sure you have a Skype account. That way it's easier for me to add you on. It's hard to do it with just numbers. But I look forward to seeing you guys on the after party. And again, you guys, don't forget, let's not tear each other down. Let's build each other up and help ourselves over these hurdles. And it's it's a harsh world out there, but it is a beautiful world. And enjoy this gift called life. Until next time, again, nighty-night, love and light. I can't wait to see you guys again this next weekend. And take care of my yous.